Please don't make any gaffes when Ryan Miller comes on.
I promise I will only call him Justin at least once. Welcome back to Big Apple Hockey, everybody. And it's just at that moment when you guys came live. I'm so happy to see that. Of course, first off, by the way, it's great to have 3 people in here and not just me and Anthony as we welcome back Philk.
What's going on?
Well, I, of course, am your host, Mark Williams, dressed up to look more professional today. And we're joined, like I said before, by Mr. John Volkowski.
I'm back, boys. I'm back.
And, of course, the man that usually has the hawk, but not today, Mr. Anthony LaRocco.
So, Mark, who was one of the better Buffalo Sabres goalies that you can remember in the recent, past?
That's a great question. Did they really have any good ones? I'm not sure.
The only guy I could think of would be Ryan Miller. I mean, wouldn't that be cool if a guy like him would ever join our show?
And he is, and he will be joining us shortly. We're going on a little bit early, thanks to the diligent efforts of the man that's all the way down there in the bottom box. And but we're going to start off talking about the Stanley Cup Finals that began last week. So the 1 overtime game and then the 7-0 game. Wow. And then last night, the Tampa Bay Lightning said, not so fast. Phil, first off, give me your thoughts on the first 2 games, as well as, I guess, go right to all 3.
It's funny because Anthony was saying, he thinks this series is over and so on. And then what does Tampa do? They get down to a 1-0 deficit. Colorado scores, and we think it's a goal. But it's not, because Bowen Byram actually had the puck go slightly offside. So that goal was called back. But Colorado then finds a way to score again to actually make it 1-0 this time. And here we go. This series looks like it's over, just like it did in Game 3 for the Rangers. Nope. And Colorado just lost it. Tampa Bay proves that they have the pedigree of a champion. They come right back after being absolutely trounced in Game 2 and a close one in overtime in Game 1. So this whole sleeping on Tampa Bay thing, I think everybody's got to stop doing it, because they continue to do it, continues to happen, and Tampa Bay continues to come back and tries to prove everybody wrong. If I could speak, that would be great. But yeah,
it's early in the day.
Yeah, Colorado, their speed is undeniable, and their talent as well. But holy smokes, did friggin' Darcy Kemper get lit up last night by Tampa, and Tampa really made it a point to show that they're not done, and you can't count them out, and you can't sleep on them. So this is a series, ladies and gentlemen, and when you think it's over, it ain't over.
Anthony?
So Game 1 was, it was close, overtime, obviously. Game 2, the Avalanche, it wasn't even competitive. It looked like it was a NHL team playing a minor league team. They really, ran them right out of the building. And I just think Colorado, their combination of speed and skill is just that much higher than Tampa Bay right now. And I know, credit Tampa Bay, they came back, they did what they had to do on home ice to at least make this a series. But I don't know. I still have a hard time believing that Tampa is going to win this series. I mean, best case scenario, let's say they split. Colorado's a 3-1 lead, and I don't know if Tampa Bay is going to rattle off 3 straight against Colorado, especially when 2 of those games are going to be in Colorado. So kudos to Tampa Bay for getting the job done and winning last night. But I think Colorado's going to come back and take Game 4. And if that happens, it's going to be really hard for Tampa Bay to overcome that. So, and also the X factors, keep in mind here, Braden Point was out again. So clearly he's not recovered from his injury. And then Nikita Kucherov, after that hit from Devon Taves and kind of fell awkwardly, after he took that one-timer on the power play, when the puck was stopped, he skated right off the bench and left the game. So that could be a huge blow to Tampa Bay if that, lingers at all. So I just think, Tampa Bay, you can't discredit what they've done the last 2 years. They're an amazing team, and they still are a really good team. I just think they kind of met their match in Colorado right now. But we'll see. This is why they play the games, but I just think Colorado's going to win the Stanley Cup.
By the way, a friend of mine at the end of the Eastern Conference Finals made a joke. We're going to discuss this later after the bar talk with these guys because I'd love to pose this question to them. But I have to say this, and the same thing I've said at the beginning of the series is Colorado can win this series as long as they keep their mental composure and not like freak out or anything, because that's what Tampa's doing. And it's just Tampa is going to just go, look, the games went that way. They're the only team I know that could shrug off a 7-0 loss in the Stanley Cup Finals. When you're down a game and you need it. That's the only team that could possibly ever do that. And they're just going to relax and they're going to try to go win game 4. I think they're going to win game 4 and then go back 2-2 to Colorado and then put the pressure on Colorado to win. But before I get too far away, because Anthony, you mentioned that hit. What do you think about Devin Taves' hit on Kucherov? Do you think that was a good hit?
Oh, I've seen a lot of Devon Taves over the years, and one thing I could say is he's not a dirty player. He has no reputation of that whatsoever.
No, not that I would even accuse him of that either.
Yeah, I think he's just playing hard on Tampa Bay's best player. And also, I think what affected the hit too a little bit, Kucherov kind of lost his edge as Taves made contact. So Kucherov kind of, as he was going down, Taves' stick hit him lower, like more like on the side, the rib cage area, and then the way he fell with his legs, I think it was his groin, more so the issue of Taves actually hit to him. But I think he's just playing hard on a really good player. And I guess, I mean, there was that play prior where Kucherov hit, I don't know which Avalanche player it was. I forget now. He kind of hit him a little bit late, maybe a little bit from behind. I'm blanking on who. Maybe it was Manson. So I don't know if that could have been, a retaliatory thing. But overall, I have no issues with Devon Taves' hit. I think it just made it look a little bad is because how awkward it was with how Kucherov fell. But I have no issues with what Devon Taves did there whatsoever.
Okay. I mean, I was because it looked like a weird hit. That's just
definitely was. It was awkward.
Phil, who's guy that's really impressed you in this series?
Wow. I've got to say Nick Paul has really been very impressive. I think he's going to work his way to a big contract for himself. And I'm not talking like a big superstar type contract, but for a guy that really came out of nowhere, wasn't really a household name, he's kind of made himself one. He's made himself to be one of the better bottom 6 forwards across the entire league. And someone's going to give him a nice contract. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't think Tampa can keep him beyond this year. But come this offseason, he's going to get some money. He's going to get a nice chunk of change because he's really kind of broken out between the regular season that he had and then this postseason. So Nick Paul's the guy for me. Yeah,
and Mark, when we did our preview, he was the Lightning player that I mentioned. So Phil's spot on. And not for nothing, his effort last night was kind of heroic. He clearly got hurt. He was laboring. He comes back and he scores that goal. And then he left again, and he came back. That was a really, really strong effort from him. And Phil's right. Tampa Bay has to firstly take care of Andre Palat because Andre Palat's an unrestricted free agent. And for my money, I mean, he's got 10 goals. If Tampa Bay were to win the cup, he might be their favorite to win the Conn Smythe. I mean, Stamkos is up there, but Palat's been hell of a player for them, and they're going to focus on keeping him.
Yeah, Kucherov's got 26 points.
No, I know, but Palat has scored a lot of clutch goals. He's been big for them. He's been an important piece.
Yeah, I mean, there is precedence for that. I could think of 2 different occasions off the top of my head where the Conn Smythe winner didn't have nearly as many points as the leading scorer in the playoffs, but had more goals. 1995 with Claude Lemieux, he had 14 goals, which I believe led the NHL in the playoffs that year.
And by the way, if you watch those playoffs, Claude Lemieux was the MVP.
Well, Claude Lemieux had a bunch of clutch goals throughout each series, and that's why he won that Conn Smythe. And then Anthony's favorite, Alexander Ovechkin in 2018. Evgeny Kuznetsov had 32 points in that postseason. Yeah. And it was the first time that somebody had 30 points in a postseason since Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby in 2009. Just think of that. 9 years without a 30-point scorer. And Kuznetsov still didn't win the Conn Smythe because Ovechkin had all those goals in the playoffs. I believe he had 14 as well, if I'm correct. But yeah, Andre Palat, Anthony's right. Andre Palat could be the guy. I wouldn't look past Nikita Kucherov. Steven Stamkos is obviously a good one. And there's always going to be the big cat. Andrei Vasilevsky is always going to be in the mix for a Conn Smythe as well. But right now, you would have to look at it and say that Andre Palat might end up being the most important player on that team this year.
Yeah. And they can't afford to lose him in the offseason. I know they don't have much cap space. They have to him and Jan Ruda are actually their only free agents, but aside from Nick Paul, but I think they'll do all they can to keep Palat. I think he was making 4-point-something million. He's going to get, I think he'll probably get a raise to in the sixes. They might have to move a guy like Alex Killorn though to really make it work. So
I believe he has no trade protection though. I think it's limited if I'm correct, but I believe that Killorn has no trade protection. I'm actually trying to grab that right now.
And actually, I think it was Lauren that mentioned it just now. But Valeri Nichushkin has had such a great series so far, and he's really looking. He's just so improved from when he left the league and left the Dallas Stars.
He got bought out.
Came back.
Bought out by Dallas.
Yeah,
and you're right.
And just what a job by him coming back and being a great two-way player.
Yep.
Just a quick update. Killorn has a 16-team no-trade list, so he can veto trades to half the teams in the league.
By the way, right now we got a poll that's up. Who do you think had the greatest performance of a U.S. goaltender right now on the poll? And right now, our guest is the leader at 33%. And when you talk about the names that are on that poll right now, Jim Craig in Lake Placid, Mike Richter in Montreal when they won the World Cup, Ryan Miller in Vancouver when he was unbelievable.
Just international performance in a tournament?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Jonathan Quick in Sochi. Incredible.
No,
so
going back to Nichushkin for a second, I think Colorado has Kadri, Nichushkin, Burakovsky, Manson, all as free agents. No way they're going to be able to keep all of them.
No.
But I think when it comes down to choosing between Nichushkin and Burakovsky, they're going to choose Nichushkin right now. He's going to get paid.
Val Nichushkin is probably going to be the one that stays because I think Burakovsky is actually going to get a bigger number because he had I believe a 60-point season.
Yes.
So he's going to get somewhere in the 6 to 7 range himself. And it's funny because I was talking about this on Twitter. I believe it was yesterday or the day before, and an Avalanche fan ended up in my mentions somehow. And after I tweeted about how McKinnon's going to get a raise somewhere in the 11 to 12 million range.
Yep.
In the 2 years. Then you got to worry about Makar's. Obviously, his contract kicks in. You got a whole bunch of guys. They're probably going to lose Nazem Kadri because Nazem Kadri is going to get Mika Zibanejad money this upcoming offseason because he was on pace.
If not more.
Yeah, if not more. He had 87 points, I believe, in 71 games. It was actually on pace for 100 points flat. Now, he probably won't ever hit those numbers again unless he's in the absolute right situation because of the fact that Nathan McKinnon missed a significant amount of time and caused Nazem Kadri's uptick in ice time. But Nazem Kadri is definitely going to get a gigantic payday going forward. Now let's just see who ends up signing him, and is there any buyer's remorse in the end?
That's going to be a great question, and I just wonder if it's going to be like a different contracts where as soon as the ink is dry, you're going, this is not a good idea. We shouldn't have done this. So we'll see about that one. Anthony, I'm going to start with you on this question, and then hopefully that'll take us. Maybe Ryan Miller will be on by then. But Anthony, if the Lightning are able to pull this off, where does that put them among the greatest teams in NHL history?
Well, I think we touched on this. Possibly it might have been the last show we did. I have to say, I mean, the teams of the 80s, the Oilers are impressive, the Islanders. But if they win 3 in a row to do it in this era, there's no question that the Lightning winning 3 cups is one of the most impressive feats and might be considered as one of the best dynasties of all time. Because, back when the Islanders and Oilers did it, different day. There was no, salary cap, and it was much easier to keep teams together. What the Lightning are doing and have done is incredible. I mean, we talked about how they lost the Gord, Goudreau, and Coleman line that was so important to them. And yet they kind of remade it in just, Hagel, Nick Paul, moving up Ross Colton, etc. That's really hard to do. And they still recreated that. So no question, Tampa Bay, if they pull this off. My question is, if they do win again, how do they keep it going? Can they afford to keep Andre Palat with the rest of their team intact? Nick Paul's probably going to go. But you know what? If they win, I'm not going to doubt them and say they can't win 4 in a row. Because in the offseason, I know, Phil said he could see them going again. And, I said no because they lost that third line. And so they've proved me wrong coming this far. So but if they do it, kudos to them. Julien Brisebois, John Cooper, the organization is, top rate from top to bottom. So, but yeah, in my opinion, it would be the most impressive team of all time to do it in this day and age.
Phil.
Yeah, it's got to be one of the top 5 to 10 most impressive. Oh, never mind.
All right, guys, here we go. We got Ryan Miller joining us right now, so I'm going to get him in. Joining us right now from Ryan, where are you right now?
On camp.
Nice.
Cody's got about 3 hours on the ice this morning, so just got him out there.
Well, thank you for joining us. And Ryan, I'll start with congratulating you on the impressive feat of getting your number retired this season by Buffalo. Can you just speak to a little bit about that? And, I know as a kid, I'm sure you dreamed of playing in the NHL one day, but could you have imagined that, you're going to get your jersey number retired by a, NHL team that you played for so long?
No, definitely not. Big surprise, tremendous honor, and definitely something when you're, as a goaltender, at your routines, you spend time during the national anthems. I'm kind of looking around at the ceiling, and you see a lot of the great players who have come before, and they've been up there. Is certainly something that catches your eye, and so to be considered one of those players for the Sabres is a dream come true for sure.
Ryan, was there any moment in your career where, whether it was the team or yourself, where you felt like you had to redeem something, whether it was the silver medal or a certain point in a playoff series or anything?
Oops, sorry. Sorry, guys. Yeah, trying to find a spot to.
No problem.
To sit. Yeah, go for it. Sorry.
No worries. Was there any point in your career where, like, you had a moment where you felt like you needed, whether it was yourself or the team, felt like you had to, like, redeem yourself on something like that, or whether it was a playoff series, the silver medal, or?
I don't know about redemption so much as, you're trying to just compete every year. I think that we always took the playoff series as steps forward, and we were having a quality season if we were in contention for something. And the same goes for the silver medal. It's definitely you look back on it, you wonder how things could have been different throughout the game or the tournament or whatnot. But you come down to, I feel like I did the best I could do, and that's how everything ended up. And I'm proud of what I was able to accomplish coming from where I come from, and that's how you kind of park it. But certainly the competitor in you wonders, where little things could have been different. But that's not something you have a whole lot of control over when things are all over.
Ryan, I got to ask you about 2010, because that was certainly a memorable year for you. But I'm going to start with the Vezina Trophy. What was that the best season of your career, and did anything feel differently about that year?
Yeah, we just had a good vibe as a group, and then that kind of carried over into my play. I think that I felt like I was kind of ramping up and reaching a point in my career where I was figuring some stuff out, and I had a good summer of training coming off an injury. I'd actually sprained my ankle the year prior, and so I had a lot of time to focus in the summer on how to put myself in a good position for the season and also a good position for the Olympics. So, it was really a conscious effort to be ahead of the game. And I think maybe my injury actually helped because I didn't really have an off season. I missed a big chunk of time. I tried to come back and kind of came back early and tried to make the playoffs the season prior, playing through pretty good pain. It didn't work out. So I essentially just kept rehabbing. And I think that actually helped. I was physically, mentally ready, and I was up for the challenge. And it was a good time in my career. I had enough experience to make some corrections in my game and my mindset. And I was also hungry enough to put the effort in. So it's definitely a rewarding year looking back on it because a lot of effort went in ahead of time and a lot of things had to go right. So yeah, it's good to look back on in a way, but also bittersweet because we came up short in a couple areas that season. But like I said, you park that, and I did the best I could.
Well, just to add on to that, not many men can get a standing ovation in Pittsburgh while Sidney Crosby got booed in that one moment. So you were able to accomplish that, Anthony.
Small victories.
Now, Ryan, in 2006, 2007, you guys, the Sabres, you led the league in goals for, like 308 goals, and I always equate you guys to the NFL's version of the greatest show on turf. Those Rams teams that were so high octaned and scoring. Your Sabres were kind of the same way. And you had a 911 save percentage that year, which right now probably equates to like 925 or even higher. So that's really outstanding. But question is, did you have to change your approach to your play when you were playing in front of a team that was maybe so run and gun and always looking for offense? Did that make your job difficult to you at all?
No, it just was a different element. I played on different teams over my career. Like coming from Michigan State, we were pretty defensive orientated. And coming out of juniors, we were kind of middle of the pack. And our junior hockey, there's not a whole lot of responsibility. So, you're kind of used to run and gun a little bit as you grow up. But coming into pro, I was used to the guys, and our puck control was actually really good. I think, I'd be interested to see where we are with advanced stats now and how we were driving the play and how often we had the puck. But yeah, creating offense leads to chances against, as you've probably seen in these playoffs. Even the best teams give up what would be considered many years ago a terrible scoring chance against. Like that'd be all the media would probably talk about, is that scoring chance or that goal against, the way things happen. But I think we've seen how things have shifted towards sacrificing a little bit to get the upside of possibly just controlling the play and scoring more goals. So, we were a pretty forward-thinking team. We can thank Lindy Ruff and Darcy Gear for, having the forethought and putting together a group who could handle that situation. I think we tailored our third and fourth line to be a little bit different, and our defense were encouraged to do things a little bit different at the time. And we benefited from having the puck on our stick a lot. But that means, I'm going to see some 2-on-1s, breakaways, some odd situations. But I think, the same thing goes with a shootout. I've always kind of taken those opportunities as challenges that I'd like to meet and try to have fun with it. If that makes any sense. Like,
yeah.
As a goalie, you can't be out there judging your team and saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe they let up this 2-on-1 while a 2-on-1's happening." It's just, okay, we got 2-on-1. Let's do this. Or, oh, it's a breakaway and it's Jaromir Jagr. Oh, this is going to be a huge challenge. And that was, I don't know, that was fun for me. It probably explains a lot of why I was able to, be a goaltender and probably not suited for another position as well.
Ryan, what were some of your favorite away arenas to play in?
I think Montreal's always been a great one. Just the respect that they have for the game is outstanding. I just remember some games where they were trying to get into my head a little bit, or trying to like boo and jeer and like all this stuff. And then I just thought it was so unusual, and maybe some people might not pick up on this, but like if you make a pretty good play or like an outstanding play even as an away player on the visiting team, like you'll get a portion of the crowd that actually applauds that. And it's not because they're fans that have come to Montreal to cheer for you. It's because they're just Montreal people who love hockey, and they're like, wow, that was a great play. And I've always thought that was cool. And you can sense it in the crowd too. Like I backed up there before and things happen, and they talk about how great the play was, no matter who does it. So I always loved that. Plus the energy in the building is great. And then Madison Square Garden was always cool. And then I don't know, just depending on the vibe, I guess, the team you're going up against. There's been rinks that had, different vibe when the team was playing a different way or playing better. And so it's always been fun to travel around and bring the circus to town and have some fun. So, but those two cities stand out for sure.
Ryan, so you were at Michigan State when the Cold War game was introduced, and then you had the honor of being in the first Winter Classic. Did you have any idea what you were going to be starting?
No, and it's really cool how it kind of came about. One of our assistant coaches, Dave McAuliffe at Michigan State, was really behind, pushing for this and trying to get the idea going. And I remember Michigan State really, being excited by the idea. And when they kind of hinted that it might happen, and then they're like, yeah, we're going to play at the football field. We're like, this is outstanding. This is an amazing idea. Like, we were a pretty good team at the time. I think at one point we were ranked number 1 in the nation, probably the year prior, for a long time. So we were a confident group, and we all looked forward to that showcase, especially against Michigan. At that time, our rivalry was, full swing, pretty evenly matched, and we can go back and forth a little bit. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Now, Ryan, shifting gears a little bit to the Stanley Cup Final going on. Obviously, Tampa Bay picked up a big win last night, but as a goalie, can you just speak to our listeners about, Colorado? They're so fast and active, especially their D. Byram, Taves, Makar, Manson, Gerard, who's not playing, can move really well, and Eric Johnson. So when you have a D that activates that well and is so fast, as a goalie, what do you have to do differently to be aware of that and kind of counteract that?
I mean, I think the patience is the key. You don't want to bite too hard when the play gets going kind of down below the dot to your left or right. They're going to be looking for somebody. It was so traditional when I played. It was like a 3-on-2 or whatever. You're coming down the wing, you're going to get a shot. They're trying for a rebound. They're trying to beat you clean. But, man, the guys just do a great job holding the puck now and looking for players activating or beating their checkup ice. Colorado is just such a good team at making decisions and together in a fast way. It becomes just like everything feels like it's coming downhill at you when you play against them. It's like everyone's headed your direction, and they do a great job of pressuring. If it doesn't work out for them, they've instantly entered into forecheck mode, and it's hard to get the puck back down the ice. So they can be overwhelming to play against. It was interesting to see how Tampa countered that last night. They played a little bit different game, I thought. So good on them to make the adjustment and get creative and kind of send Colorado back on their heels a little bit. So that's the fun part about watching.
Now, you played with Josh Manson in Anaheim, and I know maybe to the media and the outside world, he's more viewed as a guy who, plays tough in the crease and physical, but he could really skate and provide some offense. So what was it like playing with him?
Yeah, Josh is a great player. I think he gets more of the reputation because he's willing to go play with the body, and I think his his dad's reputation also precedes him. But Josh is a little bit of a throwback, but he's got enough skill where he's ready to enter the play, and just a big, strong body. He's able to kind of dive in when you don't expect it. And I think that's been the case a few times in this postseason. It's been a little bit unexpected, but like jumping by McDonough in one of their games in Colorado, I mean, you don't think he's going to jump from below the hash mark or right below the dot there. So he thinks he's got a safe pinch, and then see you later. So good read by Josh, and great finish. I'd like to say I helped him out with that over the years.
Ryan, Buffalo has had a long line of great goaltending, going from Tom Barrasso to Dominic Hasek to yourself. How was it to be the next in line after someone like Dominic Hasek and having to deal with maybe some of the media pundits saying that you might have had to try to fill his shoes to an extent?
Yeah, I think when I got there, it was pretty apparent they were looking for something like that. He had been gone about a year. Marty Biron and Mika Nornen were first-round picks, and then I had a good college career, and I was obviously expected to do something with that. So, yeah, they were definitely looking to create the storyline and push. And I wore number 39 in juniors and into college, and it was a number that I actually really enjoyed. I wore it internationally. I've worn it internationally, for USA. And the second I got to Buffalo, I asked for number 30. I wanted to blaze my own trail, and I didn't want the comparisons. Dominic's his own, he's got his own style. He's got his own aura, persona. He's one of the greatest goalies ever to play. And I just wanted to have my own identity, and I was lucky enough to kind of carve it out with a great group of guys. We got my group of boys who kind of came up through with like Palmenville, Gostad, Roy, Vanek, those guys down in Rochester, and really starting to build something together. With that's what I was more looking forward to, is like a team identity and my own identity, and lucky enough to look back now and say that we were able to do that.
Ryan, by the way, I got to tell you, one of the funniest commercials I ever saw was that old Amp Energy commercial that you did the Yo Mama fight in. That was always a great one. I do have to ask you this though, because on top of all the accomplishments, I never got to list all of them. Vezina Trophy winner, silver medalist, winningest American goaltender of all time. You've had a rich hockey family. Like the Millers are pretty much royalty for American hockey. You had 10 family members playing the NHL. So I guess would that be more of a good novel for you, a sitcom you would write?
Yeah, I think if you saw my brother and I running around the rink chasing my cousins, I think it'd be more of a comedy. So just to clarify, there's 10 Millers that played hockey at Michigan State, and then there's been 5 of us in the NHL. My brother is a Stanley Cup champion with Anaheim. I think Kevin has 2 Olympics. I have 2 Olympics. Kelly played like 1,300 games. Kip won the Hobie Baker in college. My cousins Curtis and Taylor came down from Calgary just before I got to Michigan State. And then my brother capped it off when he went there too. So, we've had a lot of hockey. My grandfather came down from Canada in the 1950s, and he was the first one to go. So we're pretty proud of where we came from. I'm glad Grandpa did, or else we might be farming up in Saskatchewan still. But no, he took a chance in the 1950s. It wasn't probably all that normal to cross the border, go down to the United States and attend college and play hockey is the primary reason behind it. So, he took a risk, and and took a chance, and it, it's actually a pretty cool story when you look at how many people in our family were able to be impacted by Michigan State. It's not just the hockey players; it's also other parts of the family. So it's pretty cool.
Now, Ryan, before I let you go, I want, as you know, the off season often refers to silly season, free agency trades. A lot of the media speculates about players wanting to go home. Like, for instance, Johnny Gaudreau, top free agent, he's from South Jersey. So a lot of media and fans speculate, he's going to sign with the Devils or sign with the Flyers. As a former player yourself, is that a thing? Do you guys, is going home to play at home? Is that something that players really want to jump at the chance? I know everyone's different, but is that something that players really prioritize, or is there much other things that you put ahead of just going to play for your hometown team?
Yeah, I hate to give the boring answer, but I think it's pretty up to the individual. I can say that, I was proud that I was able to kind of leave home and then go build something, and then, it would have been nice at some point to say that I could come home to play, especially with my brother being in Detroit. But, you had other goalies at the time who had been building something, and like, I think Jimmy Howard was starting to kind of build something there more when maybe I would have had the opportunity. And it just felt more like, well, I think I have some other opportunities happening. And, I think with the forwards and stuff, maybe they got a little more flexibility. So, yeah, I think that it's interesting though. Gaudreau's been a great player for the Flames. We're talking about somebody who could become a historic player for the Flames. So, I mean, you have that to consider as well. I mean, that's something to factor in when you talk about players and their legacy. But maybe it's just easier to go close to home, and he's maybe. For me, for sure, I factored in like when Noreen, my wife, and I were married, and she had a lot of work and based out of the West Coast. A lot of my thought process was, well, how can I make this easier on our family? And, Vancouver worked out to be a step closer. That was a little bit easier. And then when we had kids, or just had another one, we're having an easier time to be, more immediately around the LA area. So Anaheim made a lot more sense. So there's different stages in everybody's life, and it's interesting where everyone ends up. But, Johnny has a chance to be a kind of a historic player. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him stay.
Yeah. Well, so essentially no Tom Brady story for you. We won't expect to hear you announce that you're coming back like in the next week or so, right?
No, I mean, I get winded if I'm shagging balls for the kid or doing something right now. I don't think it's worth the traumatic tendon injuries that would be happening. I did tell the guys in Anaheim that if they want somebody to come out and play a little bit, when I don't expect their goalies to be around. Stoley's I think he's getting married, and Gibby's back home with a couple kids. So, I told them if they need anybody, I'd maybe pop in once in a while just to kind of scratch an itch. But the most I've done is I played goalie about 3 times for a bunch of 6-7-year-olds, and my save percentage was about, if I could, basically I'm trying to get out of the way to make them feel good, and then all I got, and I'll tell you about this generation is and I just got endlessly chirped, and all the kids were asking their parents like how I could have possibly been an NHL goaltender. They're like, it is so easy to score on.
Are there men? I mean, if you wanted to, are there men's leagues out there for you to play in? Like for me and my co-host here, we played against Benoit Hogue here on Long Island. Like he was still skating around, but is that an option too, even if you wanted to, out there?
Yeah, I've gotten some invites, but I can tell you it'll be as I'd be skating. I'm not gonna put the pads on to. It just doesn't seem like something I'm interested in. I can tell you from experience that people try really, really, really hard when they're, if they're not a pro player, and then they get a chance to shoot on a pro goalie, and it generally ends up with a lot of shots around the collarbone and up around the head. So it just doesn't sound like a lot of fun to go do that. And get your bell rung a bunch of times for some guys to have a few laughs. So, but I'll go out and I'll shoot the puck a little bit, mess around. We'll see.
Well, nice. Well, thanks for joining us, Ryan. Appreciate taking time out watching your kid play. We really appreciate that, and hope that you enjoy your new chapter in retirement, and can't wait to see number 30 go up in the rafters in Buffalo.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I'm excited as well.
That's awesome.
All right. Thank you very much,
Thanks
Ryan.
a lot, Ryan.
Thanks,
All right,
Ryan.
See you guys.
That's awesome. Ryan Miller, everybody. The 2010 Vezina Trophy winner and about to have his number retired by the Buffalo Sabres this year. We were talking about this earlier before we went on, Anthony. It's not every day that if you play for a franchise, you're either the best in everything or you're second best to Dominik Hasek. There's never any problems with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to ask that question, because I could only imagine the pressure that he probably had felt, going in there. And basically, I mean, there was a short period of time where Marty Biron was like the guy, but Ryan Miller was always their top prospect. And he was the guy I just remember back then hearing about him as a prospect and being he's really the guy. Biron was more, we love you, Marty, but you were kind of a placeholder for him. So,
he was highly touted, if I recall correctly, coming in, especially that year that Hasek got injured.
Marty Biron, he was. Yeah, but Ryan Miller was always the guy. He was always they were looking at him and they thought he was going to be the guy, from what I remember. So,
yeah, I mean, we were talking about this, and right now the poll question's out there. What was the best performance by a USA goalie? Anthony, do you have one that you could say with that? Is it Ryan Miller? Is it Mike Richter? Best performance by a USA goalie?
That's tough. I mean, yeah, you could say Richter for sure. When he won the cup in some of those games, Ryan Miller's performance, the whole Olympics, gold medal game, that was definitely one of them. But yeah, listen, Ryan Miller, U.S. hockey goalie royalty for sure.
He's on the short list for the best.
391 career wins, the most of all time for a U.S.-born goaltender. I mean, it's more than Barrasso, it's more than Van Beesbroek, it's more than Richter, it's more than anyone. So, but if you had to pick a 1A and a 1B, I mean, it would be Miller and then in the 2010 Olympics, and then Richter in the 1996 World Cup, just because if you look at the rosters for both of those Canadian teams are impressive. You have in the 96 World Cup, you have Gretzky, Messier, Sakic, Lindros, Yzerman, Fleury, Coffey, Bork. I mean, up and down, there's talent left and right on that Canada team. And then Crosby, Iginla, Thornton, Getzlaff. I mean, you go up and down the lineup, and it's Hall of Fame lineups on both of these cards. And Ryan Miller dragged a U.S. roster that, no offense to Jamie Langenbrunner, but Jamie Langenbrunner being on the Olympic roster shows you the kind of depth that the U.S. was lacking at that time as compared to Canada in terms of pure scoring power. So Ryan Miller really dragged that team all the way to the finals and to overtime and almost got them a gold medal.
I never got to ask him about, is that the best game maybe he's ever played in? Because that game was still amazing. By the way, number one right now in our poll, Jim Craig in Lake Placid. And he was just fantastic in that entire series. So we're going to just get that, hide out that banner right there. Or no, it's a comment. Sorry about that. And we're going to do some.
Hey, Mark.
We're going to do. Yeah, hey, what's up?
You know what this is?
I don't know what that is. What is it?
Oh, it's got a light. It's Manscaped. So
Manscaped.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I gotta tell you, it's a great tool. The flashlight helps. You got this thing here, prevents nicks and cuts. Smooth, my friend. Smooth as eggs, if you know what I mean. So if I were you, I would try it out. Go to manscaped.com, put in code BAH, and stay all neat and tidy down there.
I got to stay neat and tidy myself, buddy.
If only I had one of the – okay. It's all right here. So, yes. Go to go to manscaped.com, put in the code BAH, and for 20% off and free shipping. That is always the best way to do that. Guys, we're going to do some bar talk, and it's great to have the whole gang together right now. And it doesn't happen all that often. Here we go, boys.
I'm going to take a shot on this one.
I'm going to say beer. I'm buying everybody around on this. Oh my God.
Everybody, welcome back to Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk, where we are gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. Are you so confident that you're buying everybody around? Are you just so you want a beer, or I need a shot? There's either you're depressed or just having a little bit. You know what, Phil? I'm going to start you off with you on this one. Cale Makar is the most dominant defenseman in the 22 playoffs. Is more dominant in the 22 playoffs than Brian Leetch was in the 94 playoffs.
I'm going to say shot because Cale Makar isn't leading the playoffs in scoring. It's probably one of the best performances by a defenseman since then. But Brian Leetch led the entire postseason in scoring, and Brian Leetch in the first two rounds was untouchable. He was lights out. I know in the Devils series, it was a little more rough sledding for him, and in Vancouver he rebounded, scored the opening goal in Game 7. But Brian Leetch is probably the most dominant performance from a defenseman I've seen in my lifetime. I know some will say Bobby Orr playoff runs. He won 2 Conn Smythes for a reason, but I've got to say shot here.
Anthony, and by the way, just for the record, Anthony, I'm happy that the shot isn't over your face right now. So
I'm gonna say beer. Leetch was definitely dominant in '94. Different game now, but you can't discount what Cale Makar is doing. He just completely controls the game. The way he skates and evades defenders and his shiftiness. He's got 26 points. Aside from McDavid and Draisaitl, who aren't playing anymore, that's second behind Kucherov, which is really impressive. I think if Colorado wins the Cup, he's the clear favorite to win the Conn Smythe. He's been that good. Dare I say his skating is generational. The way he moves, that's what makes him so good. He is very, very dominant right now. It's hard to compare to Leetch. I think Leetch was maybe a step above at this point, but that's not to take anything away from Cale Makar. Again, he's been fantastic, and he deserves every bit of the Conn Smythe if he wins it.
Everything those guys just said, plus adding on to this, it's nothing taking away from Cale Makar, who is having an outstanding playoffs. But I am actually going to pay him the compliment and say beer, because I actually think that Brian Leetch in '94 is one of the best playoff performances I've ever seen. He was dominant every single game. He was noticeable every single game. He was offensively challenging and defensively shutting guys down. But it was, Victor Hedman in 2020, that's one. Nicholas Lidstrom had, I think it was 2002, where he was right there. And you're talking about a lot of guys to do that. And the fact that he might win a Conn Smythe and not the Norris Trophy before he's 4 years in the league, that's going to be incredible.
We'll find out tonight if he wins the Norris.
Yeah.
With all due respect to him, Roman Josi is got to be the Norris Trophy.
He had 90. That's Josi.
The first defenseman to score 90 points in a season since Ray Bourque in 1994. It's got to be him, and he led his team in scoring.
Yeah.
That's why you have these guys, because they know just as much and they rob the thoughts right out of my head. All right. Going on, guys, to the second one. Anthony, the New York Islanders cannot begin the season with their current goaltending tandem.
So the way you worded it, I'm gonna say shot. I mean, if you said they should break it up or they should move Varlamov, that's a different answer. But saying they cannot, then no, it's a shot, because clearly, as you see in the playoffs and end of the regular season, with so many goalies getting hurt, Jarry and Domingue coming in, Kemper was banged up for a little bit, and Frank Coes came in, and Freddie Anderson got hurt, and Ranta was in. So just the way the season's gone, you see how important goaltending depth is. So you can make a case that Varlamov being here next season makes the Islanders stronger in goal, because he's a very formidable backup at this point. It's clear as day that Ilya Sorokin he stole the job this year. He was second in league in save percentage, only to Igor Shesterkin. Ilya Sorokin's here to stay. He's the future. But with that said, it won't hurt if Varlamov's back. However, the Islanders will link to some big boys this offseason if they want to increase their chances of getting one of them. Having a Varlamov as a $5 million backup is a luxury. It's not really a necessity. So they could definitely move him and get a cheaper backup, a la, Braden Holtby or, Thomas Greiss for $1 million, $1.5 million and change. So I think they should. But again, the wording of this is why I'm saying shot.
Phil.
I
forgot if I put it up. I think I did, but
I'm just going to say beer, because I get what you're trying to get at. It's just not worded correctly. But I think for cap purposes, you kind of have to go out and move him and clear that cap, so that way you could save the $3.5-4 million, whatever you're looking to save on it, and then address other needs, especially like a top six scorer. The Islanders need a top six scorer big time. They need a left side defender to complement Scott Mayfield in the top four, which is what they were sorely lacking last year, which I said was going to be a big problem for them, and it ended up being a massive problem.
That man down there.
Yeah. So that was the big hole that I pointed out. And you're going to need to upgrade other areas, and that's how you would save cap. But you had to word this a little differently, and that's why I'm going to say beer, because I know what you're getting at, but it's just not worded correctly.
Well, yeah, all wording aside, there are lots of things that I didn't know exactly how to word this, because there's lots of factors that go into this. What is the goalie market for one thing? Who's going to want to go where, and who's going to have positions in net available for guys to go in? Because is Marc-Andre Fleury playing another year? Does he go up to Montreal? Then you have, where does Josh Gibson get moved? If that's so, does that create a hole in Anaheim for somebody to go in? John is. You know what? I'm glad this happened. All right.
Well, you know what?
John Gibson.
So aside from Jack Campbell, who seems like he's not returning Toronto based on everything here, there haven't been much talks. Darcy Kemper will probably land back with Colorado. I'm not sure. But the free agent goalie market after Kemper and Campbell, I guess you could throw Husso in there, but it's not really strong. So I think teams will look to the trade market in John Gibson, Semyon Varlamov, to a lesser extent, Alexander Gorgiev.
Much lesser extent.
But yeah, no. So, for a team that, let's say, misses out on Jack Campbell or whatnot, your next best options are really through trade. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And by the way, as both, sorry, Phil, as both you guys brought up, that the other thing is insurance. Because what happens if something happens to Sorokin? So the answer is a shot for me as well. Phil, you were trying to make a point, and I talked over you.
I think Gibson's gone. I just think that this is the perfect time for Anaheim to strike in terms of the market, and you got to strike while the iron's hot. And there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be looking for goaltending. Edmonton, Toronto are going to need goaltenders.
Oh, Edmonton for sure.
Oh God, yeah.
And Toronto too. Jack Campbell, if he's out, I don't think they should go back to him anyway. I think they should probably go elsewhere. but you got to imagine that, John Gibson is going to be highly demanded this offseason. And goaltending markets are usually very volatile. You can never predict them, and they can change in a snap like that.
Yep.
So if for Anaheim to do it, I think they have to take advantage of it now because they have Lucas Dostal.
I was going to say that, yes. They seem to be high on.
He came up last year for a few games. And he looked really good, and he's their guy for the future. So I would say I think Gibson's got to be gone this offseason.
We'll get to more of this stuff when we do Q&A, but that's
there's a lot of talk on that. There's also
that's
a lot
another
of stuff,
report that Florida's shopping Bobrovsky heavily. So yeah, goaltending market's going to be interesting. So we'll see.
Trust me, we got a lot to talk about as soon as this Stanley Cup Finals is over, because there's so many different headlines that keep popping out everywhere. And by the way, if you haven't looked up Josh Gibson, he was a hell of a home run hitter. So moving on. Colorado is too fast for Tampa. Mr. LaRocco.
I mean, I know last night didn't go well for Colorado's argument in this sake, but it's round. Colorado just plays with so much speed and pace. And what makes them even more dangerous is that their defense can play the same pace as their forwards. As I mentioned to, Ryan Miller and asked him what, as a goalie, how that when you have an active D like that, that's so fast, how it makes your life more difficult. And, Colorado, if you look at Tampa Bay, Hedman can move up the ice, Sergachev, but Chernak, Rota, McDonough, they're not speed demons, and Colorado just heavily outweighs them in that category. I mean, again, Byram, Taves, Makar, Eric Johnson, they can all move the puck, and that's not even counting Sam Girard, who's out for the rest of the playoffs. He's another guy that is offensive minded and can move the puck. So Colorado in every facet's faster than them. Tampa Bay, to beat them, are going to have to slow them down in the neutral zone, which they did last night. But to the root of this question, I mean, in my opinion, absolutely, Colorado's too fast for Tampa Bay.
Phil?
Beer, because while their speed is noticeably faster, and Anthony does bring up a good point, the other thing that he brought up there is adjustments, and adjustments can neutralize speed. And when you control the neutral zone the way that Tampa did last night, that's how you neutralize that speed. New Jersey did it for years. Sure, they had some assistance with the clutching and the holding and grabbing and stuff like that, and Brodeur being able to come out and play as a third defenseman, but you can still adjust against that type of speed. We've seen it before. They did it against the Rangers. The first two games, the Rangers' speed overwhelmed Tampa, and we thought, wow, the Rangers are really going to be that team that comes out and really gives Tampa the problems that they that they're going to succumb to. But no, Colorado's an even faster team, and Tampa still found a way because John Cooper is the best in the league at adjusting to game plans and things being thrown at him. And he did it last night. So look for him to do it again in Game 4. And like Mark said, you were probably looking at a tied series going back to Colorado, because I think that John Cooper found the adjustment that he needs to make. And now it's up to Jared Bednar to try to, exploit Tampa and really get that speed going back and breaking out as a 5-man unit and forcing Tampa to play back on their heels instead of on their toes and controlling that neutral zone.
Because Phil worded his answer the way that he did, I was actually going to say round, but who cares? Because adjustments are going to come in. So thank you, Phil. Now I have to say beer, because it's exactly that. I think Toronto was too fast for Tampa. The Rangers were almost too fast for Tampa. Colorado is too fast for Tampa, but Tampa just goes, that's the way you want to play. This is the way we want to play. That's it. It's just that simple with them. They are just every organization wants to be Tampa something bad. And hey, Ely, how are we doing? And it's that simple. And everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and Tampa always punches back.
Oh, I know that to be true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And by the way,
I gotta say, I mean, aside from Colorado so far, aside from the Stanley Cup Finals, while it's still East versus East, the Rangers and Islanders have given Tampa Bay the biggest problem out of all the teams they faced throughout this run.
Toronto.
Sure.
Well, Dallas brought them to 6 too.
That's fair, but
yeah. Which Again, we got a great discussion topic after bar talk for you guys. So
Yeah.
Based on the joke that a friend of mine told me, but sticking with the Stanley Cup Finals, Darcy Kemper will get pulled at least one more time in the Stanley Cup Finals. Mr. Fikowski.
I'm going to say beer. I think it's more than possible. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I definitely think that it's very possible. And Tampa has a quick strike offense, and they can just go and score goals in bunches, and they can do it without key players in the lineup. They've done it without Braden Point in the lineup. They've done it without Nikita Kucherov in the lineup. They've done it without Steven Stamkos in the lineup. So we can keep doubting this team all that we want. They continue to come back time and time again and shut every single last one of us up. So I'm not going to doubt them. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's definitely a possibility. So beer.
Anthony.
I mean, really hard to predict. I mean, anybody can get pulled at any moment in a game, but yeah, I mean, I guess Tampa Bay's capable of scoring and scoring in bunches. Darcy Kemper obviously isn't the most elite goalie, so yeah, sure. I mean, I guess I'll go with beer, but I mean, it's not a certainty. That's for sure.
And that's also a great point. It's not a certainty because you never know. I mean, who knows? I mean, and this is for performance. It's not for injury. And sometimes it's not even on him. I don't think all those goals were on him last night. But sometimes a coach needs to pull the goalie just to wake guys up. I'm actually going to go shot on this, guys. And the reason why is because he better not. Because if I understand Colorado can yank him and go right to Francois at any moment, but you can't have a series where you're playing two goalies the entire time. That's not exactly the path to winning. By the way, one of the dumbest comments somebody gave me last night at the bar was, "Oh, the Colorado wants to let them win one because they want to win it at home." If you're thinking about where you're winning the Stanley Cup or anything, you're not going to win the Stanley Cup. That's how. Yeah. This one, I'm not as familiar about this with these guys, but Andrei Kuzmenko will be the top left wing in Vancouver. And Phil, go ahead, start it up.
I'm going to say beer. We've seen guys come over from the KHL and just not have the impact that we thought they were going to have. Nikita Gusev was a far more highly regarded winger than Andrei Kuzmenko was, and he just never had the NHL career that you thought he was going to have. And then you have other guys that are undrafted out of nowhere, like Artemi Panarin, who come over and they just end up having great careers, or, Kirill Kaprizov ends up having a 100-point season, sets all sort of Minnesota Wild records in his second year and wins a Calder in his rookie year. So I think it's a beer just because of the fact that they don't have great wing depth right now, and you never know what could happen. But I don't think there's any certainty to this.
Anthony.
I'm going to go beer. He was sought after. Obviously, the top KHL free agent. Darren Dreger said there were a bunch of teams that he considered in the end that kind of promised him, quote unquote, top 6 minutes. And it seems like Vancouver is one of them. But again, there's no guarantee just that will happen just because they said that. Vancouver will probably make some changes in the offseason. You hear players like JT Miller and Garland and maybe even Besser. So they could reshape their lineup, and if they do, maybe that lands Kuzmenko a top spot. But we never know. He could be closer to Nikita Gusev or Shipachyov, or he could be Panarin or Kaprizov. But I have a feeling he might be a Nikita Gusev type player in the end. We'll see, but it's not a certainty. So I'll say beer.
I'm going to make it a clean sweep and make it a beer too, because as much as I think the path is kind of laid out for him, they're moving JT Miller to the center, and that already takes away your top left wing right there. And he could easily slide in there because they've had some guys that are kind of disappointing.
I don't think they're going to move JT Miller to center. Yeah, he's probably going to end up staying on wing because you're going to have Elias Pettersson and Bo Horvat unless they move Horvat. I mean, that's possible, but I don't know how likely it is that he's the top guy.
There's been reports that they're going to move him to center. So
there's also been reports that they might move JT Miller this offseason.
That's also true too. Yeah. There's another way of doing that. By the way, sometimes, Anthony, when you stop, it looks like there's a halo around your head. So you're like literally Saint Anthony right there. So
okay, Sugar Ray.
All right. Guys, going to coaching news that happened this week. It's not quite official yet, but Pete DeBoer will get the Dallas Stars to a Western Conference Finals in his tenure. Guys, I'm going to start this one. I know he's not my favorite coach. I know I constantly, and I always say Pete DeBoer's got a shelf life. He gets the most out of his teams, but you know what? He's going to get them to a conference finals at one point. How exactly they're going to do that? He's not going to wear out his goaltenders on this one. Jake Ottinger is going to be the guy. I think there's still a good mix of veterans and some young talent there, but he got San Jose to a Stanley Cup final. He got the Devils to a Stanley Cup final. He turned around the Florida Panthers 10 years ago. And then, Vegas, they just couldn't get over the hump with him. So that's what I'm going to say with DeBoer. I'm going to say he'll get him to one conference finals. It'll be an upset or in the making with somebody. I don't know. Probably as a wild card. Maybe he goes through the West.
So you're saying, are you saying around?
Yeah, I said around.
Yeah,
he's going to do it.
Graphic before.
All right.
Sorry, I did it. There it is.
No, you did.
Okay. Anthony, you go.
No, again, Hart. Does he coach there 5+ years? You never know. Beer, I guess. Dallas is set up in goal. I like Jake Ottinger a lot, actually. I think he's going to be a really good goalie. Jason Robertson, Rope Hintz, Heiskanen. They got some good pieces. Ben and Sagan obviously have fallen off. Eventually they might have to make decisions on them next couple of years. But Klingberg probably going to leave in free agency. So I don't see them getting to a conference final in the next year or two. But then again, you never know. I learned in this league anything can happen. One day you can be on top, and the next day you could be on bottom the following year. So they got some good core pieces there, but I wouldn't classify them as a contender in the next couple of years here. So, like I said, I'll stick with beer.
Okay, Phil.
I want to say shot. I do, because I don't see things getting better in Dallas. Anthony talked about Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn. Like, what's up with Tyler Seguin? Like, Tyler Seguin has not been himself for a while. Jamie Benn is obviously in the downside of his career, and he's terribly overpaid. That contract needs to be moved. John Klingberg is not coming back. Joe Pavelski had a renaissance year, maybe even the best year of his career at his very old age of 37. So, usually that 37, 38 age, yeah, I saw the look in your face, Mark.
7 years old.
Yeah. But it's Joe Pavelski going to have another year like that at that age. Usually the age, like that 37 to 38 age mark is where players start really falling down in terms of production. The good part about Pavelski is that he plays a game that relies a lot on smarts and not a lot on physical traits and a talent in deflecting the puck down into the net and everything. But I don't know. I've got to say shot here because they have some good young pieces, but they're going to lose a lot of pieces, and a lot of pieces on their team are currently going to start to decline very soon. So again, you talk about shelf lives with Peter DeBoer. I think that he doesn't outlast his shelf life to end up getting the chance to get them to a conference final. So that's why I'm going to say shot.
Who lasts longer, Pete DeBoer in Dallas or John Tortorella in Philly?
Pete DeBoer in Dallas.
Anthony.
I don't know. I'm going to go Torts. I think he fits the Flyers to a T. Everything about him.
I can't wait to see his press conferences.
Yeah, me too.
I just don't like the idea of a very young team like that and a real headstrong, hard-ass coach like Tortorella turning a lot of those offensive guys into shot blockers and defensive players and stuff like that. Yeah, sure, that might breed winning hockey, but if you start to see guys that you thought were going to be 30 to 40 goal scorers or maybe close to point per game players turn into 50-point players, maybe 60-point players at best, when does management turn around and say, hey, we expected more out of these guys offensively and you're the reason why they're being limited the way that they are? That's really the discussion I think that ends up happening in Philadelphia after a bit. And that's usually what ends up getting Tortorella thrown out the door, that and his relationships with players. So,
and by the way, I just can't wait till he has to answer questions on Rasmus versus the line. That's just going to be right there. All right, last one for you guys. Anthony, I'm going to start with you on this.
Sorry, hold on. Before we go forward with that, because we're on the topic of Tortorella, did any one of you see Brandon Dubinsky's tweet?
Yeah, prayers for he had prayers to Philadelphia Flyer players. Yeah.
I do have to both laugh about it from all angles because he goes prayers for the Flyers players, and it's a great picture of him just kind of looking off into the distances towards in his ear. But on the other hand, Tortorella really made Dubinsky's career. I mean, both as a Ranger and then really as a Columbus Blue Jacket, because then he became a matchup center that he was great with Columbus for the role that he was in. But Anthony, I was going to start with you on this one. And word is we're going to have a decision by July 1st of Barry Trotz will end up in Winnipeg.
I'm gonna go Beer. I think at this point that's the most logical place for him. I've heard whispers of Boston, but I'm not quite sure that's going to materialize. And the important thing to remember here is a lot of people saying Barry Trotz doesn't have to coach this year. He's not in any position to be forced or feel like he's forced to continue coaching. He could take a year off. People have said that he wants to get into management. Elliot Friedman referenced last week that he did indeed buy a house in Nashville and, linked the possibility of maybe, he goes to there and ends up in management at some point. So I don't know. He's going to take his time. I know he was in the mix with Philly there, but I heard that he had declined. So that's just so he's not just going to take any position. I do think Winnipeg, if you connect the dots, he's from there, might be a good fit, but I don't think it's a certainty, but I will say if he decides to coach this season, I do think it probably will be Winnipeg. So I'll go Beer.
Philk.
I want to say Round, but screw it. I'm going to go Round.
Okay.
I'm going to go Round. I just think that it's a perfect fit. He's from there. They need a good coach. They need a coach that's going to get the best out of this core. Unless they decide to move Mark Scheifele and decide to try to retool with this, because I know they're going to have some cap concerns. But if they want to keep everything and kind of like retool on the fly and just add some pieces, or if they want to go for it, Barry Trotz is actually the guy to bring in because he could help get that team to that next level, and he knows how to win. He's a proven winner. So I'm going to say Round here.
I'm going to go Beer. I'm still pretty confident he's going to end up there. But again, the hard part about it is he going to end up there, or are other teams going to make a plea for him? What about the Florida Panthers? Florida Panthers could easily just go, Barry, come on down, teach these guys a little bit of defense, and they're a Stanley Cup winner. And obviously, we got so much stuff that we're going to be covering with the Panthers in a minute. But there's
Markov there.
Yeah. Well, the best defensive forward in the league, but there's other guys they need to get them to play a little bit more defense. But the question is, or is Andrew Burnett really their guy? There are the questions that are out there right now. So we're going to be seeing about that soon. By the way, everybody, thanks for joining us on Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk. Don't forget, by the way, to check out manscaped.com. And when you go to manscaped.com, as we got those two razors right up here, you will, and you enter the code BAH, you'll get 20% off and free shipping. Go do that right now. Go do it, and then shave your gones. So, don't know where I was going with that one. Just went with break with gones. It's just what came out. Can't really help that one. That's so. I got to tell you guys this story.
Oh my God.
And ask you this. So a friend of mine last week, when the Rangers got knocked out by Tampa Bay, literally as it happened, walked up to the bar, friend James, big Islander fan. And he just says to me, "Hey, Mark, I've been through this before. You guys losing 7 games next year." And at first I stopped and I'm just like, you know what? Thanks to that. But it got funnier the longer away I got for this. So here's my discussion topic for you guys. If I could tell you your team loses in game 7 of the conference finals the next year, and Anthony, since you've already been through this before, but you're guaranteed there, would you take it?
I mean, what? I mean, I guess. I mean, because what's the alternative? Like not making the playoffs or whatever. I mean, so I guess you have to take it.
Well, you could always you're guaranteed to lose in game 7. You can win the cup. You can always not make the playoffs.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a little bit silly. Obviously, you're going to take that then if that's the case. But listen, it was tough. I mean, like I said, when they lost in the bubble in 6 games, like when the rematch came about, you kind of say to yourself, okay, well, what are the odds they lose to the same team again? And that's kind of like, I think, the mindset a lot of people would have if their team is in that situation. You just expect it to go differently. But that's not always the case. And just because you lost to the same team prior year doesn't mean you can't lose again. And that's ultimately what happened. But, it was a fun ride, and it was good. And, you guys kind of experienced that this year with seeing the Rangers playing them again. But if that happened, you guys next year, the Rangers again next year, honestly, you feel even worse because then now you lost 2 years in a row to the same team and got a game further. That was tough. That was tough, I think, for Islander fans and for any team that loses to the same team 2 years in a row. So, but again, consider the alternative, and of course you're going to take it because you don't want to miss the playoffs. So, it's a simple answer, but
gamble. That's what it is. Do you want to gamble winning it all, or do you want to just say, "Hey, I want to go to the Eastern Conference Finals"? And
the most difficult thing about it was that in the Islanders' case, the second year they lost a 1-0 game and gave up a shorthanded goal, which was very uncharacteristic of them. I mean,
that was the only shorthanded goal they gave up all year.
Yeah,
correct.
The belief going into that game, I think, was that maybe it was the Islanders' time. In that game, it was a game 4 game 6 obviously sent in overtime. But in game 4, when Ryan Pulock made that game, that's essentially season-saving save at the end there, you kind of feel like maybe the luck is on the Islanders' side here. And then Beauvillier scores in overtime to send it to game 7. But
and then being down 2-0 as well.
Yeah. In that game, yeah. So, I don't know. I kind of lost a lot of. Like, I don't hate Tampa Bay. Obviously, after they lost that game 7, I had a lot of hatred for them. I mean, now I really don't. It is what it is. It's kind of how I feel about Tom Brady. I used to hate the guy, but then he wins so much, you have to respect him. And that's what I really feel about Tampa Bay Lightning right now. So, but getting tired of seeing them in the Stanley Cup Finals 3 years in a row. I would like to see a different team.
Yeah, I think this is actually might be the last gasp, but that's a different story. Phil, your thoughts? Would you take a guarantee game 7 loss in the 3rd round than over a possibility of winning or not making the playoffs at all?
I'm going to gamble. It just, you know what? Why do I want to know that they're going to lose? Like, it's almost like watching a wrestling match when you have like spoilers. Like, the match is going to happen. You're like, sure, it could be a great match still. The two wrestlers could go out there and put on an absolute all-time classic match. But I would rather gamble. And here's the converse to it. Who the hell thought the Rangers were going to do this?
Right.
Who the hell thought the Rangers were going to do that? So,
I mean, it's that old adage about that's why they play the games. And that's what makes it so beautiful to just watch sports, despite the fact that I'll get people to tell me, yeah, all sports are rigged. I'm like, nah, are they? That's about it on that one. All right. Anthony, what news do you got going on around the league?
Kevin Week said before that the Oilers have signed Jay Woodcroft to a 3-year extension. So any speculation about the Oilers having a vacancy or a different coach is that book's closed. Woodcroft will be back behind the Oilers bench next season.
All right. Well, first, good for Jay Woodcroft. I thought he did a great job for the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah,
I thought he did too.
I mean, by the way, and that also puts another quality coach on the market, Dave Tippett, who has won basically everywhere he's ever been. Dallas, even Arizona. He won in Arizona. That's the best way to sometimes describe him. But Woodcroft, and it looks like he might be getting what Edmonton needs to get. Anthony, here's a great question. Oh, sorry, finish your thought first.
They need goaltending. I mean, Koskinen's gone. We know that he's signed overseas. Mike Smith has a year left on his contract. I know when they got eliminated as media session, he kind of left the door open of possibly maybe retiring. So who knows if he'll be back. But even if he is going to be back, you got to get a starting goalie. You can't have Mike Smith as the starter again. So the Oilers really have to try to trade for John Gibson. I mean, they could go to Jack Campbell. I mean, he's good enough to stabilize them and give McDavid and Draisaitl a chance of winning a cup. I would say Varlamov, but reports were that he already vetoed a trade to Edmonton, so I don't know if he's an option. But they need to do something to take the next step.
Yeah, and that's the number one thing every GM obviously has to answer all the time. The Oilers really have to do that. Because the next question I have for you is their goal now? Did they raise the bar on themselves too high? Now you got to make the Western Conference Finals.
Of course, if you go to the Western Conference Finals, you want to get over that hump the following year. A lot of players that lose in the Stanley Cup Final. That too, but lose in the Western Conference, Eastern Conference Final. They always say the cliche is like, they're going to remember the feeling that they had and use that as motivation to make sure they don't feel that way, again next season. But as the Islanders experienced, they said that when they lost in the bubble and then they lost again. So you could say that and use that as motivation. Doesn't mean it's always going to happen. So you
don't always run into a team like Tampa Bay on the cusp of the dynasty. So that's the other thing too.
So for the Oilers, of course they want to take the next step. I'm sure McDavid and Draisaitl are really hungry to get even further, but they're going to need better goaltending. And I don't know if this is sarcastic. It absolutely is a bad choice for the Oilers. Georgiev he's not a good starting goalie. He's just not.
I think Georgiev is exposed when he plays more than 20 games, 25 games.
I would say, Mike Smith would be the worst option again for the Oilers. Georgiev would be the second worst option. I mean, I'm
going to disagree with you on one thing, because I think the worst option, fortunately, took himself out of the mix. It was Koskinen. Koskinen was not. I know. Again, I've had some whipping boys on this show, that we've done it throughout time, but Mikko Koskinen, there are times where I thought I could score a goal on him, and I haven't shot a puck in the last 4 months, or 3 months, whatever it is. But it's just, he's a guy when he's off his angles, my goodness, he is just off in every way. And I think that's Edmonton, Toronto, Montreal, I guess to a lesser extent, Ottawa. It seems like Forsberg is going to be their goalie there. But it's just, I mean, how is this goalie market going to shake up? That's one of the things that you have to ask the question on.
Well,
I mean,
my guess is that Kemper I'm 50-50 on. I think the Avalanche feel that. I mean, also depends how the rest of this. I mean, if Kemper plays well from here on out, and is one of the reasons they win a cup, maybe they look to re-sign him. But I mean, my gut right now says that the Avalanche may opt for Jack Campbell and try a different option. So I think kind of like the coaching carousel, I think you're going to see a goalie carousel. I think you may see Campbell, let's say, end up in Colorado. Maybe Kemper ends up in Toronto, or maybe Buffalo needs goaltending, so maybe Buffalo gets Jack Campbell or Darcy Kemper. New Jersey, there's a report that they kind of lost faith in Mackenzie Blackwood, and he could be moved, and they'll need goaltending. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. But I would say it's imperative, going back to the Oilers, that they get a different option. Again, whether it be Campbell, Kemper, Gibson. Gibson's the best option. Well, he's the best option, right? Out of all the goalies available, he's the best goalie available by far.
Yeah, I mean, Darcy Kemper is right there, and he's obviously a hell of a player. But it's always an injury question with him. And then if you open it up too much, does he get exposed? Because at times with the Avalanche, he's looked fantastic. At times he's looked meh.
Yep.
And we've seen what he's been doing in the playoffs so far. Again, just look at the Stanley Cup Finals. It goes period to period with him sometimes, where he looks good in the first period versus Tampa Bay. Then he looks bad in the second period. Then great in the third. And then great in game 2. And then okay in game 3. But also, by the way, like I said, I'm not blaming Darcy Kemper for game 3, as I've said before. But it's the goalie carousel is just going to be so interesting. And I think that's where I think the Rangers might end up with a decent backup. But Alexander Georgiev, I don't think is the answer to anybody's questions. Yeah. Maybe Anaheim. Maybe you could send him to Anaheim when John Gibson is moved. And maybe he gets something going there. But
I think I'll talk about Roman Shell's comment there on Varlamov in a minute, but before, while we were in bar talk, someone mentioned Bobrovsky, and that's another kink to this goalie carousel, because
thanks, because we were at to talk about that.
The $10 million cap hit's going to be a deterrent, and for sure, I would say a team's going to have to retain salary. But Bobrovsky moving can kind of shift the power, so to speak. I mean, a team like Toronto, even with retaining salary, Bobrovsky's probably too rich for them. But maybe a team like New Jersey. New Jersey has a ton of cap space. Bobrovsky's certainly an upgrade over Blackwood. They can afford to take on actually the majority of his salary. I know they probably wouldn't want to, but they could. And Bobrovsky would help New Jersey in goal. But that's the point. Bobrovsky moving again, that changes things as well. So we'll have to see how that plays out. And going to this comment about Varlamov, I agree that he could be a big prize. I agree that they move him. The only thing I disagree with is that he referenced eat $2 million. The Islanders don't have to eat $2 million on Semyon Varlamov. $5 million for a starting goalie is these days is basically nothing. It's basically nothing. Let's just face it. It's different when it's their backup. So they won't have to eat any salary on Semyon Varlamov. A team like Edmonton, who's desperate for goaltending, they would gladly take that contract. They don't. So the point is, the Islanders don't have to retain any salary on him. There will be teams that give up a second round pick for him, because that's what I think he's worth, a second and a prospect. But
he does mention, though, if they retain some salary, they could possibly get a haul, and haul was in capital letters.
They could get more. But for the Islanders, the priority is to shed his salary completely, because they're going to be big game hunting. So they want all five.
And I think that's one thing the Islanders want to do this year. They want to try to get as much cap space as they can. They have a ton of cap space for them, for a team that's outside the playoffs looking in. That's going to be a conversation we're going to have, by the way, during the summer. Non-playoff teams to be worried about in the next season. But it's you look at what Bobrovsky has done, and again, Anthony, I go back to this. There are certain contracts I've looked at when the news is broke and just went, that's a bad contract.
Yeah.
And for baseball fans, Jacoby Ellsbury to the Yankees was one of them. And that's the one that always comes to mind. And the Bobrovsky contract with Florida, I thought was a good deal. And I say that like this with an upwards inflection. But the other thing that factored in is they drafted Spencer Knight.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What did they think they were going to do? A 1A, 1B combo? Eventually, it just you don't draft a franchise goalie and then go, all right, but we got this other guy. Let's sign him to a $10 million deal. Oh,
no, yeah. That was a bad move by Florida. I think everyone knew the minute the ink was dry in that contract that it was going to be a highly questionable decision to make.
What was Talon doing?
I don't, again, I guess it's because, listen, as good as Knight is and how he's being hyped, you ultimately don't know if he's going to pan out. So I guess it was protection in the case that, Knight simply didn't pan out, but still.
With a 7-year deal?
Handing $10 million out to him is, bit him in the ass a lot quicker than I thought it was going to. So again, that's going to be tough for them to move him. It is.
I'm going to give you 3 goalie contracts. This is number 1, 7 years, or was it 8? It wasn't 8 years.
No, it wasn't
7 years, $10 million per.
Yeah.
Okay. Carey Price, 7 years, and it was $10.5 million. And Henrik Lundqvist at $8.5 for 7 years. Would you ever give a goalie 7 years ever again?
Yes.
Okay. When?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I mean, so I guess let's say the equivalent of we'll use Philip Forsberg. He's an elite free agent. If there was an elite free agent like him that was a goalie that hit the market, yeah, I would give, like, for instance, if Igor Shesterkin or Ilya Sorokin or Vasilevsky, if a guy like that came up to unrestricted free agency, and they're 27 years old, then yeah, I would give that 7-year contract out. I know Bobrovsky had won 2 Vezinas, so I guess you could say, well, isn't that the same thing? You can make that argument, but it's different. I mean, Bobrovsky, as good as he is for a couple seasons, he's also kind of erratic sometimes, so up and down. So yeah, I just thought that was a poor choice.
And Alex, just to say this, I know what they were saying right there, but still, you look at the goalie's timetable, about at least 3 years to develop a goaltender before sending him over. That's still, it's a 7-year deal. I mean, and it's committing $10 million to a guy. You basically made Sergei Bobrovsky untradeable. I love, by the way, Anthony, when they do that, they go, yeah, I want a $10 million contract and a no trade clause. Yeah. Don't worry. The $10 million contract is the no trade clause. So it's just
now. This is a fair point. Yes, in that situation, I would do that.
Hands down, the Islanders would do that.
Yeah, and I think Nylander is the guy. I think Nylander is the guy to move because they're not moving Matthews. They're not moving Marner. Tavares is pretty much immovable because of his contract. So if they want to switch things up, Nylander is the realistic guy to go. So, but we'll see what happens there.
I understand what you're saying with this one. I'm not sure about that, Anthony. Would you say Anders Lee is untradeable?
Well, $7 million. He's their captain. I wouldn't say he's untradeable, but it's very, very unlikely to the point it's not even worth talking about. It's just
I kind of got to agree with that one.
Lou's big on culture. Lee is a great captain. He's a leader. Class acts off the ice. He personifies everything Lou wants in a player. So yeah, He basically is untradeable.
And by the way, as Mike brought up right here, it's not fair having Benoit where he makes garbage goalies look serviceable and great goalies look phenomenal. So that's right there with that. Nylander, though, I mean, you're talking about a guy, I think he had 82 points this year, if I recall correctly, top of my head. But is it just like, you ever look at him and just think what's missing when it comes to him?
Nylander?
Yeah.
Yeah, his work ethic and him competing on a night-to-night basis. Sometimes he's a little too soft. The skill is there. I mean, he's got immense offensive skill. I just think that's the only area that he lacks.
Yeah. So, and maybe it's that I have an affinity to Anders Lee because he's one of those guys I would take him on my team. But by the way, I think Anders Lee only has like 1 year left on his deal, right?
Who?
Anders Lee?
No. He signed a he signed a long-term extension in 2018. Sorry, 2019.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was only like a 5-year deal. That's what it
was long-term. Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, by the way, that's another thing you have to worry about. Guys that are that physical like him, you got to worry about their bodies breaking down. And by the way, let me go through through a little bit of your list, because Anthony, we're gonna have Anthony's predictions for free agents eventually up, hopefully soon enough on a Big Apple Hockey podcast. But what's one of the big name free agents that you threw out that was a little bit of a surprise to you?
But
like,
as in,
when you were doing your list, what was one that you said? Because I see you got one name on there. I think it makes sense. I think all yours make sense. But like, you got where Nazem Kadri's going. Did that one shock you at all?
Boston? No.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Why do you got him going Boston?
Patrice Bergeron is, a question mark of if he's going to play again. They sorely need better center depth. And I feel like Kadri fits what the Boston Bruins style is. They're defense oriented. They're physical. They impose their will on you. And they need a little bit more skill. I think he's the perfect fit for them.
Nick Paul to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yes. Yep. Again, the Maple Leafs, as we've been saying for years, I mean, it was better this year, but they still need some more depth. They still need that type of, Pierre Engvall and those guys and, David Kampf that they find. They're cheap, good options, but they need that element that the Lightning had, last year with that third line of Coleman, Gaudreau, etc. And Nick Paul is that type of player that they're missing. So, again, Tampa Bay is not going to be able to afford to keep Palat and Paul. So I think Toronto is the perfect destination for Nick Paul.
All right. John Klingberg, you have going to
the Detroit Red Wings. He's a player that I think fits perfectly. Aside from Mo Seider, Detroit's defense is lacking. Klingberg can be an alternate to Seider on the power play. He can move the puck well. And Steve Yzerman can help, slowly start to be a real competitive team again. And also, you got to remember, those Swedes have a history of going and enjoying playing in Detroit. Nick Lidstrom, I think, could have influence there on him. Detroit has a lot of cap space to give him the money that he's worth. So I think that's a perfect fit for him.
Now, no surprise on Johnny Gaudreau. That's the Philadelphia Flyers. That's what everyone is predicting.
Yeah.
By the way, is it July 13th? Is free agent frenzy?
July 13th, noon.
July 13th. So we're
now the Gaudreau one. I actually struggled on because a couple of weeks ago I gave you that list that the Haley Sullivan, the Flames beat writer, 5 teams that can land them. The Islanders were included in that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough one. That's why I kind of asked Ryan Miller about his thoughts on Gaudreau. I mean, at this point, He's what, Mark? July 13th is how many weeks? Is that like 3 weeks away? Is it a
I want
month?
this 3 weeks away, top by head. I think it's because
Yeah. So
20th birthday. Yeah, 3 weeks away.
at this point, you've come, like, you didn't negotiate during the season. You're 3 weeks away of being able to see what else is out there. I can't see Gaudreau at this point re-signing with Calgary before the 13th. He could pull Stamkos. He could get to the end, see what's out there, and go back to Calgary. But I think he's going to test the free agent market. And the reason why I give pause on Philly is Tortorella is the coach now. Does Gaudreau, want to play for a coach like him who's tough, defensive oriented? He might not.
Considering he's coming from it right now.
Yeah. And then, too, in that article from Sullivan, she actually said that New Jersey might be the best choice for him, being that he was from, granted he's closer to Philly, but he was from New Jersey. They have a lot of cap space. They're a young, upcoming team. So I don't know. I mean, Gaudreau, my gut is say it's going to come down to 3 teams. I think he's either going to be a Flyer, a Devil, or he's going to be a New York Islander. I think those are the 3 most realistic options for him.
Yeah, it's. I think those are the 3. You said that the Flyers, the Devils, the Islanders. Yeah, that's because again, I think the Islanders are closer to competing. I think the Devils still you don't know what's going on with the Devils. Yeah.
I mean, if you're an outsider, well, I shouldn't say an outsider. I meant if you're Gaudreau and you're the player and you look at it and you're comparing let's say the Islanders and Devils. Okay, so Long Island's still not that far from South Jersey. What, 3-hour car ride? Beautiful new building, a beautiful practice facility at Northwell, much closer to competing than New Jersey. Back-to-back conference final trips. Big Lou is the general manager. Then you have a elite shutdown pair in Pelech and Pollock. You have, for my money, top 3 goaltender in the league, Matt Barzal. So there's a lot more. I think the Islanders are a more attractive team. I could see you can make the case that New Jersey has a bright future too with Hughes and Hischier. Alexander Holtz, who was the first-round pick a couple of years ago, is going to be a good one. Then the second
Boston Mercer.
So I get it, but I still think if you compare the 2, the Islanders are closer. But yeah, those are the 3 teams I think. And core, you're going to get July 1st back next season. Gary Bettman said the league's going to get back on the calendar. Yeah. Mark, at this point, you might as well keep going. What other picks that I put?
Oh no, because I'm gonna go into what D says, which is he says he thinks Malkin is out of Pittsburgh and Trocheck is going to go in. Anthony LaRocco says Trocheck is going to.
Man, I actually forget what I some of these. But so did I say? Did I say Florida?
Nope.
No, I didn't say Florida. I said
nope. Still red.
What?
Still red.
Capitals.
You said the Washington Capitals.
Yes. Yeah. Nice. Thanks for refreshing my memory on my own pick. I did that because this was before Backstrom's surgery came out, but it was reported that he was going to have surgery and be out for a long time. He's going to be put on LTIR. The Capitals are going to have a lot of cap space. And I think because of that, they'll have a big Vincent Trocheck-sized hole in the middle of their lineup from Backstrom being out. And I think Trocheck would fit in easily and seamlessly. But I mean, Ely's onto something too. I mean, Trocheck's from Pittsburgh, so if by some chance Malkin didn't go there, it could fit. But I have a hard time believing Malkin playing anywhere else.
It's so hard to picture that. And a matter of fact, I know guys like to go somewhere and just play at home at the end of their career or something like that. But you know what? I don't know. I don't think Trocheck's going anywhere. I just don't. And by the way, Mr. Fantastic said before, really, guys, you have this amazing show while I'm working, and he's laughing, and I can't help but go, yeah. By the way, Anthony, this is going to be so great in a second. By the way, Mr. Fantastic, I can't wait for that riveting finale of Obi-Wan. So it's just that show is really limping to the end when you had Fallen Order. You could have done that's like that. Tommy Smith has said, I'm wondering who would be a great trade partner for center depth for the New York Rangers if, let's say, they trade one of their three prospects, Jones, Nils, or Robinson. Statboy Steven always thinks it's LA. I actually think LA would be a good partner for the Rangers because the guys you just mentioned are guys that are always that are already developed, so they could always do that. I don't think Velarde goes anywhere now, so maybe.
And
maybe
I also don't believe. I mean, LA kind of was another team that no one expected to really make the playoffs this year. So they're not really rebuilding anymore, but they're still looking ahead to the future. LA has no reason to trade Turcotte for defensemen. I know they can maybe use defense more than offense when it comes to young prospects, but I don't see the need for them to do it. So I don't see LA trading Turcotte at this point. I don't see it happening. I will say if the Rangers, let's say, don't re-sign Kopp, don't re-sign Strome, and they miss out on Trocheck and they look for a trade, Scheifele is a name that always said if he's available would be a viable option, or maybe sign Nazem Kadri if they could afford it somehow. Which, Mark, I showed you that cap team I put together a week ago, and it's ugly for the Rangers. It's ugly. It's ugly.
Yeah, it is. It is ugly, and that's why they need to make sure that they trade Patrick Nemeth and not buy him out. Anthony, I can't wait for this comment. But Core Python came back with, where do you have Strome going, and why is it Ottawa? Core, Anthony made this prediction. Ryan Strome is going where, Anthony?
The Ottawa Senators.
Bing.
How'd you know, Core? You're in my head. Why? So kind of twofold. The Ottawa Senators are a young rebuilding team. They got some good pieces. Josh Norris is a hell of a player. Drake Batherson, Stutzla, Shabbat is their anchor back on D. They are a team on the rise. However, in the meantime, they still need kind of like placeholders like Ryan Strome. They have a lot of cap space. So Strome is a player that could help them in the short term, be even more competitive. So I just think it's a fit. I don't think Strome is worth, $6.5 million, but I feel like Ottawa can afford to give it to him. So again, they pick up a piece that can help them in the short term, and not sacrificing their future.
Now Romanello, they need to be careful about overpaying. It's going to be a race to see who offers 7 times 10.5 and then who goes over 11. Is that for that's got to be for Johnny Gaudreau? I don't think anybody else could even get to that salary threshold, right, Anthony?
Yeah, Forsberg might, he could probably get 9 or so, maybe even a tad more, but yeah, that's got to be about Gaudreau.
If Malkin left Pittsburgh, do you think he goes to the Detroit Red Wings?
No.
Okay. He's still having trouble not and just seeing him leave Pittsburgh, right? Can't put him in a different jersey, right?
If he did leave Pittsburgh, then I agree with Ely. I think Trocheck then would go to Pittsburgh, and I already said I think at that point, Malkin might join his friend Ovi with Backstrom on LTIR and go play in Washington with Ovechkin.
There's 2 great questions that we got coming in right now. And then I want to go back to some of your predictions on your goaltending situations, Anthony. But first up, by the way, Core said, Anthony, I'm in your head. And I know you're saying in your head Mark Holu already. Mr. Fantastic, going right back to this one. Do you guys think that some team is going to force the Rangers' hand with Kakko and sign him to an offer sheet? I'm going to get your opinion before I say no.
I'd be surprised. I don't see some team going out of their way to give an offer sheet to Kakko, who's still, unproven at this point. I just don't see it.
I'm going to go with I really don't see it because First off, again, we talked about KK, Jesperi Kakaniemi, and that he was sort of in a position where this team had history. The thing I also would have to say with that is that Carolina sort of had a need. Now, by the way, I also don't think he's living up to that contract right now because they signed him to an extension. But the hard part also with that is, realistically speaking, with Kakko, what would that offer sheet be that would have to lure him off? If you're going to offer sheet him, you'd have to go at least to, I'm going to say $4 million at least. And then Kakko's going to want to have to leave there because remember, restricted free agents, Kakko might be looking at the New York Rangers and going, hey, I want to be here to build this thing. And I got my friends here and I want to win. The New York Rangers just finished in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's very, very likely. But there's reasons why Kakko might not want to even sign that offer sheet. And if the Rangers do take it, let's say if somebody does offer him and force the hand, the Rangers are going to get assets back that they're going to use to trade for a different piece. So it could only everything that's going to only help with that. But I don't see Kakko going anywhere. I don't foresee that in any way. Now, Jalen right after that. And by the way, hey Jalen. What's the Sharks cap situation? And Anthony, I'm going to look this up right now, but if I recall correctly, the San Jose Sharks, the best answer for that is ouch. Is there
well, there's been some chatter that they would, if possible, they would look to move Brent Burns or Erik Karlsson. And I feel like that might be hard to do. Karlsson isn't the player that he used to be. He's got a lot of term left on his contract, and his AAV is pretty high. Brent Burns is 37, 38 years old, making, I believe, top head mark $8 million or so. So again, moving him might be a little difficult, but that's how they would really improve their cap situation because they're not going to move Logan Couture. I mean, Timo Meier and Tomas Hertl are their long-term fixtures on their team.
And Timo Meier's only got one more year on his contract, but he does have an RFA status right after that.
So I would say their best chance is moving Burns or Karlsson. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it.
Well, both of them have Karlsson's got full no trade protection or no move protection, and Burns has got a modified no trade protection. Now, Burns is making $8 million for the next 3 seasons. I think.
Yeah, for a guy his age, that's not really good.
And as I said, the no trade clause, a full no trade clause for Erik Karlsson is 11.5. There is word that they might shop trying to get him to move that no trade clause, and there's a lot to say with that one. I don't know if you're ever going to move that contract because the most salary you can retain is 50%. That's correct, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So even at 5.75 million, I'm not sure if I want Erik Karlsson even right now.
I agree.
So that's one thing. And like you said before, you got a lot of guys like they doubled down on Hertl. 8.137 for the next 8 years. That kicks in next year.
That I have no problem with. Hertl's a fantastic player. You had to keep him. You don't want him going to free agency.
That is true. You didn't want him to go into free agency, but it's just one of those things. I mean, maybe by the time they're 3 years from now, they might be out of salary cap hell. They only have $5 million available right now on their projected cap, according to Cap Friendly. And I'm looking, they got a ton of RFAs, but how many of them really matter? I mean, Jonathan Dahlen does matter because I think he's one of their young prospects because he had a pretty good, and Mario Ferraro had a pretty good season.
Yeah,
too.
you know what? The Sharks, they surprised me a little bit where they hung on and kind of competed for a lot. I mean, they were in a playoff spot at one point, so I thought they were a lot better than I thought they'd be. So, I think they're a couple of years away, but the Sharks are a team that usually figure it out.
Yeah,
and where did I have Where did I have Andre Burakovsky going? Why don't you tell everybody?
Oh, actually, you know what? Hold on. Let's get a little bit of a drum roll for this one. Anthony has Andre Burakovsky to the New York Islanders because that'll be with his former assistant coach that was in Lambert was
Yep.
an assistant coach with
Yes,
them, right?
Washington,
Yeah.
yeah.
In Washington. And
a lot of
where do you see him though on the Islanders?
what?
Where do you see him on the Islanders?
Playing with Matt Barzell. So a lot of Islander fans naturally, you want that big fish. You know, like I said, I think they are going to be in for Gaudreau. I think they are going to be, in for Forsberg if he reaches free agency. Everyone will want them to get the Brinket, but just being realistic, I don't know if that's going to happen. But so that's why I think Burakovsky is a nice fallback option. 60-point player, could score goals, could skate. Will only cost about $5-6 million. So I think he's going to be a reasonable option in free agency for the Islanders. So while it's not Gaudreau, Forsberg, DeBrincat, he is a good player. And also the key to this, Mark, is there's another certain player that's not a free agent, but a trade target that I have complimenting him. Why don't you tell him who that is?
And that complimentary player is Mr. Kevin Fiala going to the New York Islanders is what Anthony has got listed. Go ahead, give your reasoning on that one.
So Kevin Fiala, the Minnesota Wild cannot keep him. It's already been said. He's gone. He's going to be traded. Kevin Kerr's Islanders beat writer from The Athletic did that article with some account executives weighing in and talking about a Fiala trade to the Islanders and what it would look like. And it seems like Minnesota would be willing to take the 13th overall pick and either Oliver Wahlstrom or Atu Ratu in return. And Fiala will then need a contract probably in around the $7.5 million range. So he would fit like a glove on the Islanders, had a career year in Minnesota. And again, it's not the Brinket, Forsberg or Gaudreau, but getting Fiala Burakovsky would be a very successful offseason for the Islanders. So, and what is Dominic Kim talking about? 50% of the UFA are going to sign with the Islanders. I have them signing one unrestricted free agent in Burakovsky
and making two trades.
Yeah. So I didn't say Gaudreau was going to sign with the Islanders. I think that they'll be one of the three finalists to sign him, obviously.
Because what's going to happen now, by the way, Dom, what's going to happen with that is the Islanders are going to go for Gaudreau because, after all, you always try to ask the hottest girl out. And then after that, then you pivot. Then the next one is Forsberg. And then it's signing Burakovsky, but trading for Kevin Fiala. But and then wait, no more Swiss players for the Islanders.
Yeah, so Ely, I saw Nino Niederreiter. I have Nino Niederreiter going to the Dallas Stars. I think Niederreiter can be a player to them. We mentioned before when Phil was on talking about Dallas that, aside from Robertson and Hintz, Pavelski's getting older. Sagan, Ben aren't what they used to be. Radulov, I think, already left to go sign the KHL. There's speculation that he's going to sign there. They could use another top six forward. And Niederreiter's a big body. Similar to Val Nikushkin, can kind of replace what they lost in him. I think he'd be a good fit in Dallas. But Mark, why don't you tell everybody of the Rangers that the players I have, the Rangers signing.
Yes, we're gonna go to the Rangers, and then, by the way, we got some news that Anthony is going to be breaking well ahead of time because, I mean, after all, this is in the future that he's breaking some of this news. So first things first, Anthony has the New York Rangers re-signing Tyler Mott, and also going out and getting Eric Comrie to back up Igor Shesterkin. Now, they're not making many more free agent moves, But what was the big move that you said that they make it all?
The Rangers
Yeah,
re-signing Andrew Kopp.
that was it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I went by him just now.
Like I said, I know I said Kadri would be a good fit for them and Trocheck possibly. But at the end of the day, those two guys are going to cost more than Andrew Kopp. And the Rangers do not have a lot of cap space. So if they could re-sign Kopp for $5 million, and being that they invested a lot to get him, they gave up a first rounder with going to the conference finals, it would make sense for them to keep him, because you don't want to give all that up and then have him walk, and then you miss out on Kadri or Trocheck because of cap space. So I think re-signing Kopp is the safe move for them. And then also Tyler Mott. I think Tyler Mott was excellent for them, and I think he's effective on the penalty kill, and the forecheck, plays with a lot of speed, and I don't think he'll cost all that much. And then Eric Comrie, if you look at the backup goalies, Holtby is kind of past his prime. Greiss is old. A lot of the backup goalies that they could afford are older guys. Eric Comrie is a younger goalie who's already an unrestricted free agent status, has spent time backing up Connor Hellebuck in Winnipeg. And Mark, if you look at Comrie's save percentage, I believe his save percentage this year was 9. If you want to look it up for me real quick, I think it was around.
I'll do that right
9-12.
now. Go ahead, keep
I
going.
think it was around 9-12 or 9-13. Might have been a little higher. So that's pretty good. And also, I think you could probably get him for $900,000 to $1 million. And for the Rangers, that's what you want in your backup right now for not having all that much cap space.
Eric Comrie, 16 games played, 10-5-1. He had a 2.58 goals against average and a .920 save percentage.
Higher, yeah. So that would be a perfect fit for the Rangers. Igor could carry most of the games, but you have a younger guy who's shown that he can be a serviceable backup and not really cost you all that much money.
Just in case if you're wondering, fans, in comparison, Alexander Georgiev, 15-10, 2.92 goals against average, and a .898 save percentage. By the way, again, 0.898, that's not going to get it done in today's NHL. So it's I mean, on the other hand, Keith Kincaid played one game and .935 save percentage. So
I mean, basically, Mark, when I sent you that mock-up of the Rangers that I made on Armchair DM and Cap Friendly,
yes,
was it a little bit eye-opening to see that even with making modest, moves, that you were only left with $8,000, well, $8,500 in cap space?
Yes, it is a little bit alarming because, again, first off, the Jacob Trouba contract is an albatross. That's what it's going to come down to. Look, is Jacob Trouba contributing for the New York Rangers? Yes. Is Jacob Trouba a pretty good player for the New York Rangers, despite no matter how much he might frustrate some fans, including our own Mr. John Volkowski? Yes. But is he producing at $8 million worth? No. And that is a huge problem. When you're paying that much money, you need a guy that's going to produce it at $8 million level. If he was producing at a $6 million level and getting paid for that, that would be fine. But no.
And the biggest part about that was what you even said when I sent it was, $8,500 left in cap space, and your two of your defensemen, the starting six, were young guys in Nils and Zach Jones. And you're not going to win a cup with depth like that. But again, that's the nature they're in right now. And this was with buying out Nemeth. This was giving Kopp $5 million, which is totally reasonable. Mott, I think, was $2 million or $2.25. Kravtsov at $2.25. Sorry, not Kravtsov. Kakko at $2.25, and then Kravtsov on the team. And that's what they were left with. So,
and to address this one, as Kors said before, so what are the Rangers going to trade for? So what are the Rangers trading to get Yanni Gourde? You always have to, by the way, read these out loud because we have the audio podcast. That I was surprised. We got some good numbers on our audio podcast.
I don't know if Seattle would trade Gourde. I mean, I think Gourde.
I don't think you trade Gourde anyway. He's got a modified no trade as it is, but it's just. I don't think so. I don't think they're trading him. So
no,
it's the easiest way to say that one. But Mr. Fantastic, going right back to you. Do you guys see Kravtsov basically filling in for the spot of Vetrano? In a way, yeah, I could kind of see that because I think it's going to happen. I think they're going to have to. I really do think they're going to have to. I keep looking around to see what exactly is going to happen with Vitaly Kravtsov. And if they end up saying they're not going to put Kakko up there on that line, which they might, that would be a reasonable way to do it. And they're not going to put Lafreniere up there, even though he said he'll move to the right wing. Then you know what? Then you got to look at Kravtsov, and hopefully he doesn't get outplayed by Dryden Hunt in training camp again. You can see how much I really thought of that one. Apparently my eyelid's blowing up right now. Jesus, I got to get that fixed. Romanel, I have that question highlight, and oh, good. I have it right here for Anthony on it, coming on right now. Anthony, Romanel is asking, what playoff team from 2022 misses the playoffs in 2023?
It's tough. You know, for the last couple of years, I've answered this with Pittsburgh and Washington, and they always prove me wrong.
By the way, guys, throw your comments for who you think is going to miss the playoffs. Keep going, Ant.
But I think it might be one of them. I mean, Washington, I don't think Samsonov and Vanacek are the answer in goal. You know, like I said, Backstrom's might miss the whole year. I know Tom Wilson had off-season surgery. I don't know, something about them, you know, tells me that maybe they finally fall off. So, and also actually the Bruins too. The Bruins, I mean, Bergeron might not come back. McAvoy's out he's going to miss the beginning of the season. I believe Grzelcyk is as well. Marchand's having surgery. So I think Boston might be in a little bit of trouble too. Now, I mean, if they sign Kadri or, you know, they find a way to make things happen, maybe not. But I could also see Boston missing the playoffs as well. So I would say Boston and Washington are my picks.
There's a bunch of good ones right here. I'm trying to think of a Western Conference one that's going to miss. That's not named Nashville, because I don't. But I think Nashville's going to make it, so I'm not exactly worried about them.
Well, again, depends what happens with Philip. I mean, I think even without Forsberg, they probably have enough to make it. If Duchesne can prove that, you know, his Renaissance season last year wasn't just a one-off. So if Ryan Johansson and Duchesne can play like they did this year, and Forsberg leaves, they still could probably get in. But if they both regressed and Forsberg left, then I could see that being possible.
And I understand what you're saying with this one, Rick, where you say the Capitals could use Baxter's money to sign a player. Doesn't necessarily. Let's say they take that money and sign Vinny Trocheck. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get Nick Backstrom production out of Vinny Trocheck. So, yeah. And you never know with Evgeny Kuznetsov. He's had the injury bug as well as other issues, but it's just, you don't know if he's going to be in for a full season. You know, and again, I want to say Dallas could be knocked out, but I think they're going to get better. Edmonton, I think if Calgary gets weakened, Edmonton might challenge for the division title because we like the way Jay Woodcroft was doing with them. LA looks like they're on the upward trajectory. I don't think Anaheim is going to get their way in if it looks like they're going to tear more stuff down. So I think the three names, everybody's got these locked and loaded, and I think they're pretty good names. I don't think Pittsburgh misses the playoffs. I just don't. I can't see it happening.
Yeah,
Capitals, I can see happening.
I put Washington and Boston miss over Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I mean, Pittsburgh is going to be tough. You need a Sidney Crosby injury plus some other things that would happen. But even at that, Mike Sullivan has proved that if Sidney Crosby's out for a length of time, that he'll just coach around that, and he's still Mike Sullivan's such a good coach because of what he's able to do with that team. And I think Boston missing, because Boston's going to be missing a lot.
Yeah,
like they're going to miss. Bergeron probably retires, which by the way is Anthony's guess on this one. And by the way, we still haven't gotten to the big news of what Anthony has, because I think Pittsburgh is going to stay in, and like Mr. Statistic is saying, Pittsburgh won't miss Sullivan too good, but Boston's going to be missing McAvoy and Marchand, and they got to get a brand new coach. It's just, I don't think that happens. I don't think it happens with them.
Mark.
All right.
So to answer your question, the only way this happens is if Mark takes a class to become a hypnotist. And he somehow gets Gary Bettman and Donald Fair in a room together and puts them under his hypnosis and gets them to abolish the salary cap. Then if that happens, the Rangers have a chance to sign Philip Forsberg. But no, in all reality, it would be trading, because it wouldn't change the fact that they still need a center more than a wing. So they would still have to address the 2C position, the backup goalie, depth defense, whatever, re-sign Kakko. They'd have to move Trouba, as Core just said. And realistically, they probably would have to move Ryan Lindgren or Chris Kreider on top of that, realistically, which isn't happening.
Yeah, and that's not happening either. Chris Kreider's got right now it's a full no trade clause. It's modified in 2024. We've gone over this a lot. And again, when it comes to stuff like that of, oh, hey, you could always get a guy to waive his no trade clause, my reply back is, you mean the guy who has been on the team the longest is an aspiring to want to be the captain? Which, by the way, I'm going to give an opinion about the captaincy for the New York Rangers shortly, from something that we heard recently, but also some of the comments that have been made. But I just don't see Chris Kreider trying to get out of there. So,
yep.
Who makes that miss outside the Islanders? Ed, go ahead. You got the Islanders. I got my team that I think is going to be if they decide to do it. Sorry, I'll just go ahead and say it. If they decide to not change that much, because I know the rumors are all over the place with this team. Holy crap, the Vancouver Canucks have a chance of being very good.
Yeah, I agree with you, Vancouver. And in the East, Core, I may surprise you, but
oh boy,
I'm going to go with the New Jersey Devils.
Okay, I didn't think you were going to say the Devils.
The caveat to that is...
Hold on, let me lead you into that.
Yes.
The caveat to that is, like I said, Anthony's breaking news in the future for you right now. And what Anthony has predicted is that the New York Rangers will sign a free agent goaltender. Who is it?
What? Who?
Yeah.
The New York Rangers sign a free
agent?
No,
sorry, the New York. Sorry, not New York Rangers. Well, you did have the Rangers getting Comrie. The New Jersey Devils is going to sign a free agent goaltender. Anthony, who do you got?
Ville Husso.
Ville Husso is going to go there and stabilize the net.
But that's what I was going to say. I thought you were leading me into my prediction that they were going to get Alex DeBrincat for the second.
That's what I was going to lead you into the trade target.
And Chris is close there. He said if the Devils give JT Miller, that's a good one. But yeah, so there's no secret DeBrincat's being shopped. The Devils have been linked to him. There's been some rumblings that they may dangle the second overall pick for him. So if the Devils got DeBrincat and signed a goalie like Ville Husso or even Jack Campbell, when you combine that with Hischier and Hughes and Jesper Bratt, who had a 70-point year, they could make it work. So, but again, that's a lot to happen. If they stay the course, if they use that second overall pick to to pick a player, which don't get me wrong, if they got Slafkovsky, that would be great for them, but he's not going to push them to the playoffs right away.
Oh, wow. I would love to see that, by the way, Matador. His response also for that is he would love to see St. Louis leads the Canadians back to the playoffs. You hear it here first. They did play a lot better on the St. Louis, but then they kind of fell back and realized they would need Carey Price to be back and Carey Price to be Carey Price. And there's a lot of rumor of Carey Price going on LTIR for them as of right now. Yeah, by the way, only a daydream. Panthers have cap problems too. So because you got a bunch of good names on this list, and I think there's two things that are sort of shocking to me, Anthony, on your list. Although you have him on a trade targets, he's actually a free agent. But you have Tony DeAngelo staying in Carolina.
Yes.
Okay.
I think as you saw on that list, I have Niederreiter and Trocheck going elsewhere. That frees up some space for them to do other things. And again, he had a breakout year. I think he's comfortable there. I think they like the marriage there, and I think they're going to find a way to make it work and keep him.
Now, let me throw these two names out at you because, and I'm going to get to the trade target that you list as well, because you have the guy who's currently playing in the Stanley Cup Finals, Darcy Kuemper, going to Northern New York, or Western New York, I should say, in the Buffalo Sabres. Give me a reasoning on that one.
You broke up there a little bit. I didn't hear.
You have Darcy Kuemper going to Buffalo.
Yes. Buffalo has a lot of cap space. They need a goalie. Craig Anderson isn't the answer there.
Nope.
And having elite, even a guy like Kuemper who's not elite, having a stable goalie back there will help them be more competitive.
And because you might say, why not the Toronto Maple Leafs? But Anthony's got the Toronto Maple Leafs signing.
What I have them signing.
You can go into the notes. They're all in the rundown.
Yes, I am.
You have signing Marc-Andre Fleury.
Marc-Andre Fleury. I know there was talk about it during the trade deadline and where he'd waive to go, but I think he is going to play another year. I don't know if Minnesota has the funds to bring him back. I think Tampa Bay. I think Toronto views him as still an elite, starting goaltender. And I think given Fleury's options, I think Toronto might be an attractive destination when, he looks at they could be on the cusp there with what they're doing with Matthews and Marner and how they push Tampa to the brink.
So the biggest trade target goaltender that is on the market is John Gibson.
Yes.
And you have him going to?
Yep. The Oilers finally doing the right thing and getting a legitimate starting goalie.
Yeah, that's if he goes to Edmonton, now you're talking about Edmonton being a completely different team the way I'd look at them. Because now they can put the puck in the net and they have a goalie that can hang out to dry if they want to and still make some saves. And you froze on me for a second, Ant. But by the way, what about Carolina and Freddie Anderson? Is he a free agent right now?
I thought no, he just signed with Carolina. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a 1-year deal. My bad. Yeah, Freddie Anderson's got 1 more year deal, 1 more year. So does Antti Ranta. So there you go.
Yeah.
But wow, they've got a lot of guys.
When you were talking to John Gibson about the Oilers, you were breaking up there. I think it fits perfectly. I think Jesse Puljujarvi's future has been talked about, what they're going to do with him this offseason. I think that could be a piece that Anaheim would want in return, as well as some picks and prospects. And I think Gibson on the Oilers puts them in another level where now they could compete for a Stanley Cup.
And by the way, Wicked, welcome back. Jersey is such a small physical team. They need a little bit of meat in that lineup. That is right. Does Palat stay with the Lightning?
Yes. I know they
Yeah.
don't have a lot of cap space, but they're not going to let him go. They will, like I said, they'll look to find a way to keep him, whether it be moving Killorn or doing something. But they'll do whatever they can to keep him.
Yeah. But again, I think it's going to be hard for Palat to remain with the Bolts. I think somebody's going to come in with a bigger offer. It's the same thing I say about Andrew Kopp. I think Andrew Kopp might end up getting bid out by the New York Rangers. But if the Rangers do sign Andrew Kopp, Mr. Fantastic, I have to say, if the Rangers sign Andrew Kopp, he's playing the center. You're not signing him to play the wing. Absolutely not. Oh, hey, Alyssa, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, it was Rangers in 5 if the Strome injury didn't happen. I think it was a little bit more of a than just the Strome injury, and I just lost Anthony for a moment. So Copper replaced Strome. That is right. Hello, Pops. And yeah, you gotta go. And by the way, Chris G, I never said hello. By the way, hello. Yeah, hands down, he would have to be right there. Not much, Alyssa. Everything's been good. Haven't seen you in a while, so great to see you guys. Can't wait for the free agent frenzy that we're going to be having in a couple weeks. That'll be on Monday, so it'll be all three of us. The last time Anthony was in Turks and Caicos calling in during the free agent frenzy. So that was awesome.
Yep. Did you see that yet?
Yeah, I don't even know what his trade value would be. It would be crazy, but again, I say this to you before. Leon Draisaitl is one of those guys that if you ever offer a trade for him, the rule of improv is to say yes and to keep it going. Guess what? Leon Draisaitl is a yes and. You start with that offer of, oh, we'll trade you Igor Shesterkin for Leon Draisaitl, and the answer back is,
I mean,
and
it's fantasy, but yes, if Igor is put in the table, then Draisaitl would be a real option, and but that's not.
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. Where do you?
I have Letang.
Staying in Pittsburgh.
Back to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
I find it hard to believe. I just can't picture Malkin and Letang playing anywhere else. I think they want to be with Crosby for the rest of their careers too. Caveat to that is, like with Malkin, if Letang goes elsewhere and he can't come to terms with Pittsburgh, I think Montreal would target him, as they're going to probably trade Jeff Petrie.
And I'm gonna make one prediction that you did not have on your list, and I think a guy that would be perfect for the New York Rangers as soon as they can move out. Now, again, they're gonna have to go coupon shopping and go with guys that are a little bit cheaper. I think, by the way, a better solution is Nick Paul and try to promote Philip Hedl, but that's a different story at the moment. I think one guy that would really fit the New York Rangers, and they can kind of get him for a cheaper value, is Ian Cole. And I think he would go great for their bottom six, for not their bottom six as in the forwards. I mean, the bottom pair of defensemen. That's what I meant to say. And I think Cole would really be a great anchor for a guy like, say, and he could play both sides. He can play the left, he can play the right. But Braden Schneider with Ian Cole would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So
how do you afford him?
He's only making $2.9 million right now. So the first things first, you have to dump Patrick Nemeth. And
take my armchair GM I made. Like I said, after everything, you had $8,500 left. If you want to add Ian Cole, how are you doing that? Where are you cutting from?
Well, dumping Patrick Nemeth, I might not re-sign.
That included that.
Yeah.
But
I might not be re-signing Andrew Copp.
Oh,
I might be
but then-
factoring him out.
But then who are you having to play center?
Well, that's the thing. I would go after Nick Paul, see if he'll go for like a 4-year deal at $3 million. Because here's the other thing the Rangers are going to have to be careful about is the year after next, you have to go with Miller needs a raise.
Yeah.
Lafreniere needs a raise, and Hedl will probably need a raise.
Yeah.
So there's already 3 things. This is why you sign bridge deals. So it's just that's why it's if you could get a guy at a 1-year deal like an Ian Cole, that would be one story. And this is all stuff that we're spitballing, guys, obviously, because we're at the end of the show right now. And
you want to break the news to him?
okay. All right. Wicked, you could always go back and rewind it a little bit, but Anthony has broken down. Andre Burakovsky is going to sign with the Islanders, and they will trade for Kevin Fiala, and that's what we're going to end up with. By the way, a big name that we did not break down. You guys have heard so much about him, and a matter of fact, we're going to hear so much more about him. I'm almost getting touching Jack Eichel levels of getting tired of hearing about him. Anthony, where did you predict that Jacob Chychrun's going to go? Because, by the way, it's the same place I would predict as well.
Los Angeles Kings. So
there you go.
I know I said before I don't see the Kings trading Turcotte. They have no need for it. But that was in the sense of with the Rangers. Like, they're not going to trade Turcotte to the Rangers for an unproven guy like Zach Jones or Niels Lundqvist. That they have no incentive to do. But if they can get an established top 4 defenseman who's young and signed like Jacob Chychrun, then they might be inclined to give up Turcotte. So I think Chychrun is a great fit in LA.
Yeah. Although I think the thing is, if they get Chychrun, then they have no need for a defensive prospect then. So that's kind of, especially a power play quarterback like Niels Lundqvist, which makes me think then Robertson comes into play with some guys. So there's a lot of these predictions that we're going to make. We're going to make more of our predictions as free agency gets closer, of course, because we're going to have the coverage of the draft. I think we're going to try to do a mock draft, maybe one of the nights that's there, and which is going to be tough because if we do a mock draft, I'm going to have to make sure I'm up to date on all my prospects, which, I mean, the ones coming into the league, not so much. The ones that are in the league currently, I'm pretty good with. So,
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
Who do you want me to? What guest should I target for next week's show?
Let's keep trying to get JR on. That's one. I got a long list of guests, a wish list of guests. Yes. Sam Rosen, obviously. But your guy, Brendan Burke, I would love it if he's on.
The thing is with Roenick, when I was chatting with him, like, so for last week, just to give you guys context, I tried to get Ryan Miller last week, but he said the day didn't work out. He said, reach out to me next week and we'll set it up. So he had, he basically said that he would do it. He just couldn't do it this week. When I talked to Jeremy Roenick, he didn't say, like maybe in the future or reach back out. So I would love to get Roenick on, but when we left off, there was no okay, circle back.
But again, as long as he already knows who we are, so that's all that matters. We're building something here, guys. It's taking time, but it's gonna trust me. When if you can see the finished product I got at the end of this, it'll be much better. If for the Rangers, Adam Graves would be a great one. Always. But you know what? I love that we're talking about USA hockey and stuff like that. So it could be go nuts. I mean, there's always a great guest around. You know what the best guest is? The next one, because we got Dave Pagnotta who could talk to us about news and information around the league. After all, Anthony's able to get us Dan Rosen, Arthur Staple, all these other guys. Good. By the way, it's going to be a hell of a 1-year recap. By the way,
what about Big Lou?
Big Lou would be a great get because also Also, Big Lou would just we would ask one question, or we'd ask several questions. We would get one answer.
Well, if you want Big Lou, I'm gonna put that on you. See what I did there? You're the one that's talked to Big Lou before. So, Big Lou's on you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to make some phone calls with him as soon as I can not stop stammering as I'm talking to him. Now, also not thinking I got the right guy. So that's another one. So,
Mark, how many? I'm gonna try to make a deal with you here. On my free agent predictions, how many players are on that list? I want you to count them up.
Let me do a quick count. 1, 2, 3. Well, technically, you got Patrice Bergeron on here. He's
yeah, but that counts.
It counts. It counts.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you, Dominic, very much. We appreciate that.
This is great for anybody listening on audio right now. You have about 40, maybe 41, I would say.
All right. So how about this? How about if I get 4 of those predictions right, you have to call Big Lou live on air. I think that's reasonable. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? 440
Big
if
Lou?
that happens. I mean, come on. Tell Mark tell Mark that's fair. If I get 4
not
out of
fair.
40
4 or
predictions
5.
right, he's gonna call Big Lou. I think that's a fair deal.
Here are the ones I think you're going to get right already.
I think that's a fair deal.
I think you're getting right. Gaudreau, Forsberg. I keep on going Forsberg. Sorry about adding on the L, but I think you got right. Johnny Gaudreau going to Philadelphia. Philip Forsberg staying with the Predators. I think you're going to end up getting Andre Palat. I think you're going to end up getting Malkin right. So there's already 5. David Perron re-signing with the St. Louis Blues. Who'd have thought David Perron would be in St. Louis?
No, Mark, don't be an unreasonable negotiator. That's fair. Everyone's saying it's fair.
But
Everyone's saying that's a fair deal.
That's 10%.
That's a fair deal. You know what? On your headstone one day, it's gonna say Mark Williams, afraid to call Big Lou. That's gonna be put on there.
Yes, I would much rather have that on my headstone. And it right next to me will be another reporter that I'll just say, "Me too." So yeah.
I mean, he's a nice guy, Mark. You don't got to be afraid of him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, I'm afraid to talk to the pizza delivery guy. It's when I'm off the clock. I mean, I get chatted up with anybody. By the way, everybody, I never mentioned this before. Tomorrow I will have on my trip to Tampa Bay for the Rangers Tampa Bay game, and the conversations I've had. I had a lot of conversations with fans off camera, and they were all fantastic. So,
all right, you know what, Mark? Because I'm reasonable, and you didn't like my last proposal about my predictions. How about this? If Cale Makar gets if Cale Makar gets 2 more points during the Stanley Cup Finals, you're gonna call Big Lou. I mean, come on, that's reasonable. He's a defenseman. How many points is he gonna get right? Come on, I think that's fair.
Do you know what this kind of reminds me of? And I'm kind of happy that we haven't been able to get to this yet. Is there's the movie called 4 Rooms where there's Quentin Tarantino directs it. It's actually a really funny scene where he's talking about whether or not a guy can light a lighter 5 times in a row or he gets his pinky cut off. And Tim Robbins would Tim Roth at the end, just guy couldn't light it. He cuts the pinky off, takes the $500 and walks out. But if Philk was here, Philk would just go, "No, Mark, I'll do it. It's all right."
You know what, Mark? You leave me no choice. If you don't take the 4 out of 40 or the Makar scoring 2 more points, if you don't do any of those, then you have to wear a New York Islanders jersey on the. You have to do a show in a New York Islanders
on the air with an Islanders jersey.
Yeah. Is that how much you don't want to call Big Lou that you would
That is
consider?
how
wearing
much I
that?
don't want to call Big Lou. That is actually how much I would. Because I mean, he's only the most terrifying person in hockey. Because you know what? Because again, everybody, you know what happens if you mess with Big Lou. You know, you get a horse's head in your bed. That's what you get when you mess with him on. But yeah, we gotta. Well, Romanella, we're gonna think about stuff like that. See if we could get like a rando on there. 10%, no way. At least 10 out of 40. Well, again, some of these are still like all right there. Dwayne, absolutely. Ask Jacob Slavin if he would love to do it. I think Carolina might be more apt to let him do it. I would love it. Yeah. You have our contact information, so right there. Wear an Islander jersey for an entire season if you won't call Big Lou. Oh dear God, no! If Stamkos scores 2 more goals, then Mark has to send a fax to Big Lou's office. That's a possibility because at least it's a fax. Here's a piece of paper. Thank you. Hey Mark, what do you think of that range? Oh well. Alex, go back, look at my Game 5 recap, and I'll tell you right now, also, you can see the disgust in my face. Again, I say this before, I'll say it again. That fan does not represent New York fans. You don't represent New York Ranger fans. You don't represent New York Islander fans, New York Yankee fans, New York, whatever. And by the way, then he knocked out somebody else afterwards. So he's facing 2 counts of assault. But the fans that represent New York are the ones that help the guy. Absolutely. And again, look, every fan base has got their knuckleheads, but that was and because that's going to get the most play and that's going to get everybody talking about it. And it's just it disgusts me. It absolutely disgusts me. Anthony actually keeps telling me about replacing some of these things, and I gotta find. Let me show you guys this one. I gotta find a spot for this. Anyway, this is a little collage of Philk and me at the All-Star game this year, so that's a cool one. But yeah, we got a couple different videos coming up for you guys. Tomorrow I should have the Tampa Bay video, and it's only like 5-6 minutes, so you don't have to worry about that. Will you let me keep my eyes Big Lou? Oh man. So, and also I'm gonna start working on our year in review too, because we've had another great year here. This is officially our first year with Big Apple Hockey, even though it's our second year because we were All Things Rangers the first year. And years from now, when you ask me about what my favorite video we ever produced is going to be, and it's going to be our recap of our first year, where it started with me just sitting in this room, just reading some articles or videos that I put out. And then next thing I know, I'm doing Zoom calls, recording them with John. And then Anthony joined in because Anthony liked what he was seeing. So again, that's all stuff that's going to roll. This has been a great run. Yeah, Sean, thank you. And by the way, I think I said happy birthday. Was it happy birthday or was it that you just went away or something? I commented on your Facebook thing the other day. So, yeah, I have a feeling that they're going to take 4 straight. They could. You know what, David? We talked about getting a studio. I also think that it's right now, it's not in the budget yet. Although Anthony is going to look into some studio time, stuff like that. I would love to have some kind of studio, but the great part about the way this is set up is we can roll out of bed and, well, I hit the shower too, but that's a different story. And because I had to make sure I'm camera ready today because Ryan Miller was on and needed to look professional, even though it was just an audio call from him. But Alex, thank you very much. There's actually a tragic story with me that I am not a father, but that's a different story. Never Say Die Isles. You know what? I never got to see the Isles Never Say Die Isles podcast, but see, that's great when you have the grumpy old man. We need a hitch like that. Mike, you're right about that. That guy that was the only he's a thug. The only fan violence I personally approved of and seen was at the 86 Shea Stadium. A Pittsburgh fan was rowdy and spilling beer everywhere and spilled beer on the wrong person. Yep. Alex, don't worry about it. By the way, I'm also a godfather. So to two wonderful kids. So it's trust me, I will tell you the full story one of the days when I eventually get a beer with you guys. But there's yeah, looking like the Wolf of Wall Street right here. Oh, guys, I'm sorry, I cannot divulge that information. I was just no, it's Wicked. Don't worry about me. It's something that happened 15 years ago. I opened this can of worms. Long story short, me and an ex-girlfriend had a child, but she was cheating on me. That was it. So it's just that's it. I don't need to have it more in the comments. It's just that's what it was. So back to this though. See, by the way, and that's terrible. I think anytime you ever go to the game, you shouldn't be ever physically assaulted. You shouldn't ever feel like you're threatened. You should be welcomed and then leave. And sometimes it's just and again, thank you, Alex. But it's it's one of those things you whenever you go to a game, you should always and this is one of the reasons why I'm doing Mark on the road now, because I went to Tampa. They were great fans. They were all great fans that I spoke with, and nobody got in my face, and they really could have. And a matter of fact, the guy that was next to me, it was his birthday too. I went down for two reasons. One, it was my birthday, and one, I figured I could make an entertaining video for the channel. I then, of course, drank a little bit too much whiskey with the bartender beforehand, and then went to go meet up with everybody that the guys that sold me the ticket, and also just all the people that were down at Hattrick's. Great bar. It was a hell of a time. And the other thing that if I could go back and do it again and wish I could change, I wish I grabbed the lawn chair and sat in Thunder Alley. I took some footage at Thunder Alley. I just, I didn't get that experience. And there's lots of great experiences like that. I was hoping to see Central Park if the Rangers did it in the Stanley Cup Finals, but yeah, kicking them out, and the whole row said it was and again, it's yeah. And by the way, Romanella, first off, thank you very much, because we loved it that everybody was here. And when we first started streaming, I was a little bit apprehensive about streaming. I was more worried about getting segments out, but then we started streaming. And of course, our first ever stream was when JD got fired and Jeff Corton. So yeah. And it's great whenever we do these. This is a long show, by the way. Wow. We're actually up to 3 hours and 2 hours and 43 minutes. 19 of you are still watching right now. And by the way, one thing I'm kind of kicking myself is I didn't even introduce Ryan Miller. I was so excited. I just forgot to introduce him. Bit of a dunce cap on me. But, and by the way, we're going to close the poll right now. Final results on the poll. What is the best performance by a U.S. goalie? 39% of you say Jim Craig in Lake Placid. 31% said Mike Richter in Montreal. 22% said Ryan Miller in Vancouver, and 6% Jonathan Quick in Sochi. So it's but again, this has been great for us to do, and it keeps on growing. And we're going to be covering, like I said, ultimately we're going to cover everything in the NHL, and we're not going to waste your time on stupid videos like I've seen some videos lately on other channels that I can't help but just roll my eyes about, where it's either debunked information that they're given or just useless information. Like, one of the things I saw recently was about how the Rangers are about captaincy and stuff like that. And I'm starting to get the feeling that the Rangers aren't going to name a captain for not the reason that you think. That they wanted to name a captain, and one of the things that's coming to mind is that you heard the comments from Chris Kreider about how much respect he's got for Mika Zibanejad, that I don't think the Rangers are going to name a captain because they'd rather go with alternates. And if that's the way the room works, fine. Not every team needs to have a captain, although I can't remember the last team to ever win a Stanley Cup without a captain. I think that could have been Calgary in 89. I'd have to double check that one. But I know there's been co-captains before. Chris Chelios was a co-captain of the Montreal Canadiens, but I'm not sure if he was a co-captain when he first got on there. But still, it starts with Lou, right? The only bad experience I had was when we're with Flyer fans. I was like 8 at the time, and Islander fans. The Islanders won these college age fans. Well, they're college age. They were yelling obscenities at my mom and baiting my dad into a fight. Yeah, you just kind of ignore those guys. Hey, wow, this is actually breaking news right now. It might be on a hockey channel, but Rob Gronkowski is retiring again. And you know what? He is on the short list. He's in top 10 best tight ends of all time. Easy. Best tight ends of all time. And you know what? Gronk won another Super Bowl with a different team. And that's the best you could ever do. We won't name a captain as long as Kreider and Zibby back and forth who deserves it more. And you know what? I don't think anybody's. I don't think the Rangers need it. And if they don't need it, then don't worry about it. So wait, he'll retire in a month. Core? Yeah, it starts with an L. That's all I'm going to say about that. Because look, we're going to improve with every single video that we do. That's our mission statement, and it's also we're going to expand our coverage. We're going to have more fun. We're not just going to be going with news on it all the time. You can see how much fun Anthony, Phil and I have together, and it's even better when it's the three of us. Life gets in the way, so again, we hope to do that. By the way, in case if you haven't already done it, go check out manscaped.com and use the code BAH for 20% off and free shipping. Now, by the way, again, I also forget to say like, share, and subscribe, and a lot of other things because I forget about shameless self-promotion, even though that is a key to this job. But no, the Tampa fans were great. And again, those are great experiences that we have. We got a bunch of different ideas for Mark on the road. I think I might try to go hit the Beanpot next year and see what that's like. And the Calgary Teddy Bear Toss and a Winter Classic and stuff like that. We got a lot of different things we have planned for this channel, and we still have a lot of things, a lot of different videos that we want to do for not just you guys, but bring you the fan experience and not just be professional pundits. You guys can go open ESPN.com or tell TSN. We'll go with a real one. TSN or Rogers and just get their predictions on everything. But you come for our opinions too, and you also come for what our experiences are. So, and by the way, as D is saying, manscaping is a must. Yes, Core got the name of the channel right. He was dead on. But that's all I'm going to say about that, because I never want to get in the business of either bad-mouthing channels or anything like that, because look, everybody's got their opinions, and when I give a hot take, I'm going to get it too. It's just when it comes to yeah, I got rid of the blonde ones. Yeah, I definitely did that. But it's just when it comes to some information, again, like anybody can have a bad take. Larry Brooks has got a ton of bad takes, but it's just when it comes to it, and there are guys I just don't want to kill either. I could disagree with you. I don't have to kill you on it. It's just when you're doing verified false information, that's just wrong. And it had to do with a former Ranger at that. So, but guys, it is actually 2:32 right now. I am going to sign off for the day. Trying to debate whether or not I'm going to be able to get to the gym. I mean, I have the gym hair going, right? But we have all articles we're going to start doing team breakdowns on BigAppleHockeyPodcast.com, where is this week I'm going to give my breakdown for the Rangers. Phil at some point will give his breakdown for the Rangers. I'm going to go with what I think that they need and what they need to do. And also, we're going to start breaking down other teams around. We're going to break it down. I've already volunteered for a bunch of them, and I know some of you might laugh when I do this. I've volunteered for teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs, the ones that I've given the most grief over. I have volunteered to take that one because now I have to see them from their point of view. So it's always a great one. Yeah, no, Chris, I got to sty. If you can see it right there. Yeah. So I got to do that. But, and again, Mike, and this is one of my most liked tweets, I believe, as either Big Apple Hockey or as All Things Rangers. I forget which one I did it as. But Larry Brooks said that Alexei Lafreniere might want to go to the Vancouver Canucks because his former agent, Emily Castagnier, I think Castagnier was her name. Beautiful, by the way. Was an assistant GM over there. Who the fuck follows their agent? Because they go to a different team, and you're going to leave the New York Rangers for the Vancouver Canucks? It's not the Montreal Canadiens or the Toronto Maple Leafs. You go up, not west of Vancouver, and only because his former agent signed there. Come on, that's like changing schools because your homeroom teacher moved. Not that she's not important, and not that it was. It's just it doesn't always happen. And by the way, best of her luck to her, and also Cameron Giordano, who's an assistant over in the Vancouver Canucks. So, well, yeah, Romanello, by the way, TSN does own Chris, I just saw your comment because I just don't have it. I didn't have it highlighted. Yeah, you know what? And by the way, Romanello, I gotta say that I know they own TSN, but TSN at least isn't as let's just say sidetracked by other headlines than anything else. I didn't realize you meant Blink Fitness. No, unfortunately, I'm just Planet Fitness. But Romanello, I guess it wasn't that great of a show because we don't have the sex bots on. What's that? Gerard, hey, how you doing today? Welcome to the show. I mean, sex bots, 3 years, $2.1 million to Arizona. By the way, I actually volunteered to take the Arizona Coyotes end of the year thing because that's going to be interesting. What is Rogers and why do they have the naming rights in Canada? I believe Rogers is, well, it's just a media conglomerate, but I don't know if they're funded by the government. That's a great question. I know CBC obviously is, but that's a good question. I think but they're everywhere. They had they're not the Rogers Center anymore, and that used to be Sky Dome. There's so many things. And you know what, Joe? The best part about this is, by the way, Joe, how you doing? The best part about it is where you get you get to watch, you get to look through the stat packs and everything else. You get to look at the perspectives of the teams. I'm not going to have the benefit of the eye test, so I'm going to rely heavily on statistics, and all statistics need to be interpreted. But there's going to be a little bit more surprises. Shane Gostisbehere had a red hot season with Arizona, and it'll be interesting what that's going to be like in that new stadium, because is having a 5,000 seat arena, is that going to make it more like a luxury environment? I don't know. That's going to be one thing, but they don't want to move them out of Arizona, and I don't think they should. By the way, thanks to the 16 of you still watching in the chat. I forgot that there was a gym named Blank. Although I do have to get this up soon for the podcasts, Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. By the way, again, everybody, you can always get us on iTunes or Spotify. I think it only does like 90 minutes every single time. I don't know why it doesn't do the full thing. Yeah. Joe, I got to say that was one of the things I was hoping to do this year when I was down there, but my brother and my niece, my nephew, couldn't make it that night. It was a school night, so it was going to be tough. But it's, you know what? Wicked, I think you're going to get plenty of people showing up there. 5,000 is not that many. It's not that many. And Arizona State is a draw. So that's another thing that might help them. By the way, everybody, of course, like, share, subscribe. All right. Still going 2 more minutes. There you go. By the way, who was it that asked for the 10? Was it Dave? 10. Anthony's been off for at least 15 to 20 minutes. All right. Chris G says, Mark, before you go, if you had your hand on a fire or a gun to your head, who is next year's number 2 center? Gut feeling. Guys, by the way, hey Loogie. Oh, Logie. The prediction I made in the article, and it's going to probably be published later today. Just doing a spell check on it and a grammar check that we're doing. But I'm going to say the Rangers are going to end up promoting Filipino. And it's going to be tricky because 2 of the things I say in that is he took an immense step forward. If you look at the eye test, his step forward in the playoffs was phenomenal. That being said, 8 goals, 14 assists on a season, and 7 goals and 2 assists in the playoffs is not what you need from a center. But if he's a shoot-first center, then you put him with Panarin. And Panarin has had successful seasons with Artem Anisimov. So you don't necessarily need him to be somebody that's going to be carrying a line. But Hedl was starting to shake off defenders like ragdolls. And if this kid really has grown to what we think he is, there are 2 players I think that have taken the biggest strides and the quickest big strides this year. Number 1, first and foremost, is Keandre Miller. Keandre Miller, if you guys remember, and we talked about this before, when it was middle of March, Philk was doing some of his the final buzzers. And what happened was he would say things that Miller is missing, and Miller was missing basic stuff that a defenseman should not be missing. Then, like around the trade deadline, like the week before and then a week after, you really started to notice Miller wasn't making those mistakes anymore. And I think that's where Keandre Miller really is jumping out now and looking like a real solid stud of a defenseman that the Rangers are going to have. So I can't wait to see what he's going to be. And the other one's Filipino. Filipino just, he brought it better defensively. He wasn't, don't get me wrong, he wasn't a stalwart. And the other thing is he started kind of just owning it and shooting the puck more. They moved him to wing, then they moved him back to center. And if you're pairing him with, say, Alexei Lafreniere, or even the kid line worked because you had two guys that were puck distributors with a guy that was a puck shooter. And I got to look again at that Hedl goal, the second one against Tampa Bay in game 1. And that was sort of like a perfect example. I think it was Miller that had the assist on that. It was Miller and Lafreniere, and Kakko was also huge. So again, those are all things you have to do. So again, Logie, hey, hockey guy didn't move about the Tampa, but again, Joe, I don't know if anybody fully knows what's going to happen next year on that until it happens. Like if it's, let's say they're filling up that arena, 5,000 seats in Tampa, then it's a good indication of the city planners. And you, as well as I know, and I'm not even living in Arizona, I'm still going to use the word yet. That's still the plan eventually, but who knows? I might just find an apartment somewhere and fly everywhere. But it's the people that thought about putting it in Glendale didn't think anything through. Nobody wanted to drive all the way to Glendale. Your base was in Tempe. They drew better when they were in the Tempe area. So it's the city planners really wasted money on that one. I'm being optimistic, yeah, because it is such a small stadium. And Dave, you're right about that one. Tempe is closer to downtown Phoenix, Scottsdale, Chandler, Mesa, and then Glendale is. A Tempe move in a long run would be great, 100%. And people don't want to drive like an hour and a half out of their way to go down there. It's just not happening. Hedl was a true playoff warrior. That's right. We have no cap space to speak of. Hedl's job to lose till 2024. Yes. Panarin is a playmaker on a wing. He needs a skilled winger, not a center. Yeah, and he might get that with Kakko. Kakko might move up to that side. And another thing is Lafreniere might be in there too. But you know what? That's where Vitaly Kravtsov comes in. And there's 3 spots for Vitaly Kravtsov to get in here. So first things first, Rangers brass don't guarantee him a job. I'm only saying that to light a fire under his ass. But or just tell him or tell him he's up no matter what. And they can't send him to the minor leagues. We already know that. I don't know how to motivate him besides go out there and go get paid. Lafayette was starting to get mean before getting to the playoffs, but then he got nasty when the playoffs started. Yes, he did. Sean, Panarin playmaker, Hedl finisher, Kravtsov skilled winger. Gerard is saying Miller is long. Yes, he is. He has got a hell of a reach, and he's just doing great with that. Sign me up for that. Well, Miller's using the body more and less of the stick finally, and that's something that he had to do. Facing the top competition on every single unit also helps. And by the way, think about this. Braden Steiner is going to grow. Braden Steiner is going to grow, and that's going to be something that's back. I'm going to check that right now. Kendra Miller really impressed me in the playoffs. What do you think about his offensive upside? I've always been high on Hedl. Hope he gets more minutes to really show his mettle. I really like Philip Hedl. Again, I thought he was going to get traded in the Andrew Kopp trade. And when he didn't, I went, wow. I still thought Kopp was going to be the third line center, and he wasn't. But I don't know. But D is breaking this. Carolina Hurricanes have given Ethan Bear permission to talk to other teams. Earlier reports said that they were far apart. You know what? That could also be one of those where Rod Brindamore was given permission to talk to other teams. Go ahead, see what's out there. Come back to us. And they've done that before, and it's worked. So where the players come back or the coaches come back. A Casey move in the long run would be great. For Kansas City, I don't know. They had the scouts years ago. I'm not sure if they would be there. And then Logie right there. Schneider will take Trouba's job, and Trouba knows it. Trouba knew that from day one. He really did. So, all right, guys, we're going to sign it off right here because it is always great to do these. But, and I don't think the Kako experiment is over yet. He looked like a guy that never wanted to surrender the puck in the playoffs, and he acted like it at times. So I know people think about the missing the open net, but still, that's it. The Kako stuff is guys got to grow into their roles. And again, part of the thing I've talked about all the time with these guys is you got to grow into your roles. You got to know your roles, and then you got to get these guys, Kako and Lafreniere, power play time. You're giving them PP2 time, and they're barely scraping by. Alexis Lafreniere had 19 goals this season, and he had 1 power play goal, and I think it was at the end of the year. I mean, he had 18 even strength goals. That's amazing. And you know what? Lafreniere is going, no, it's just the problem with these guys is they were put onto a playoff team. And I mean, Kako wasn't. The problem with Kako was Kako had David Quinn. But then Lafreniere got put onto a team that nearly missed the playoffs. They had playoff expectations. Ryan Strome was performing at a high level. I don't want to hear, by the way, that Panarin loves Ryan Strome so much. Great. Everybody loves everyone. Who cares? You gotta move on. It's Ryan Strome's money's got to go somewhere else. That's just where it is. A kid, he'll find his groove soon. Yeah. And you know what? Another one, Alex, you don't want to be that team that gives up on a player 1 year too early. I'd rather be 1 year too late than 1 year too early. So let's not worry. He's not Evgeny Grachev, if you remember him, or Joseph Bale, or Pavel Brendel. We'll go with those. Even Jamie Lundmark. You know what? The Rangers have been on a search to try to. The Rangers haven't drafted a center that's made an all-star team since. Oh dear God! I know this hurts the audio portion of the podcast, but I can't remember the last drafted center that the Rangers had. I think Turcotte made an all-star game. That's how far back I'm going. I'm going back to Darren Turcotte, guys. So, yeah. Rick, I don't know about that. But, yeah. Mike York, I don't think he made an all-star team. That was a New York Ranger. He was a finalist for the Calder Trophy. I don't think he made an all-star team. By the way, he lost that all-star, that Calder Trophy to Scott Gomez, if everybody remembers correctly. But also, by the way, there's still Will Coley. There's Brennan Ottman. But you still got to answer the question at center. That's what the thing is. You got to figure out who's going to be at center. I think it's easier to promote Hedl and then sign, like I said before, Nick Paul. Not to ruin my own article. Go ahead, go read it. All right, guys. The Rangers are allergic at drafting a top center. That's right, Chris. They kind of are. They keep on passing on all these guys. But again, by the way, Mike, that would not help matters. It would not be necessarily the Rangers drafting the guy. That's the thing. They might get a center prospect, but then they'll move on from there. Derek Stepan was a real good center prospect for the Rangers, but Steve Larmer. Nope, that would be a Chicago. Or I don't think Chicago was where he first started. Pretty sure it was. Michel Goulet, I know, was with Quebec. So, well, I gotta say, Chris G had it first, Dave. But still, all right, guys. Again, thank you very much. I'm actually gonna go run along. I got to deal with this eye. So, and I'm gonna hit the gym. But it's always great doing these 3 hours, 8 minutes. And I was trying to sign off at 2:30. You guys are done a hell of a job. So again, everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. All things, I almost called this All Things Rangers, Big Apple Hockey, where we're going to get more guests and we're going to do more of these interviews. And hopefully I won't mess up the intro for them, but thank you all very much. It's great joining us and we can't wait to do more of this. Talk to y'all soon.